A stranger buys it for 1 billion. The seller was completely shocked by the price and asked if anyone wanted to raise the bid. 1 billion for this foreigner. If no one wants to raise the bid, then she's sold. The man in the robe and mask began to walk towards the girl. Now, since she belongs to him, he can take her. The seller noted that everything was correct, and he could leave. The girl asked him why he paid so much for her, and asked what he was going to do with her. The gentleman asked her to sleep, because when she opened her eyes, they would already be in a different place. The girl noticed that his gaze was cold as ice. When she woke up, she immediately jumped up in surprise. The girl did not understand at all what was happening and where she was now. A gentleman entered her room and noticed that she was already awake. This frightened her even more, because she had no idea who they were or what they wanted from her. She jumped up and walked away from them. The man said that the lady should not be so afraid of them. Another man pointed out that his colleague was right, because this place was the Duke of Schweden's estate, and no one would harm her here. When she heard about this, she thought about it, and then she asked how long she had been there. The man said that it had been 4 days, and they were worried because she had not come to her senses for a long time. The girl asked for a pencil and paper. The man said everything was right there in front of her, but the lady firmly told him to give it to her. She asked him to put it under her feet. The man noted that the lady was so capricious. When he walked away a little, she immediately rushed to the pen and paper. If this really was the Duke of Schweden's mansion, then she needed to get out of here immediately, until they realized who she was. It's bad because her hands are shaking and there's no other option. She opened the window and wanted to jump out. The servants didn't have time to stop her. The girl flew away on a large bird. The men were in complete shock when they saw this. I need to draw myself some kind of means of transportation and get out of here before she gets caught. Men thought she was a drawing mage. She heard that very voice. Although dazzlingly shiny golden hair and an aristocratic profile, the swordsman's strong and large hands make him look like the sun god who has descended from the heavens on his chariot. The main character is Lucifer de Schweden. He remarked that I did it so unexpectedly. Well, that's true. She really screwed up. The girl found herself in this book about 10 days ago. I woke up in a crate being transported to an auction. A man was telling the coachman to be careful, because there was a high-class slave in there, and she asked him if he had heard that this time the prince himself, even the descendant of the sun, would come to the auction. So he had to guard these goods properly. But they really were sorry to sell this one. After all, desert women are usually very hot. The main character thought about it. She didn't want to say who what. Maybe she ended up in the body of villain number 4. This is unfair. Since this book is quite popular, she thinks that 1,000 people have read it. She only read halfway through until the moment when the body of her favorite character was found in prison. The main character did not understand at all why this had to happen to her. She lay in the bath and decided that it was better to be villain number 4 after all. Villain number 4 is Shay. She loved the main character more than anyone, and I couldn't stand the main character, who I was constantly hanging on to. She was the one who calmly stood and watched as the main character fell off the cliff, and the Duke who saw this scene imprisoned Shay where she eventually died. But she simply fell into the trap of villain number 1. Villain number 4, despised by the other 3 villains, is the most unfortunate character, and the reason why she was hated was because of her beauty. She was too beautiful. She thought it was a bit old-fashioned. When she read this book, it seemed to her that the author was exaggerating too much. But this is crazy. When she looked in the mirror, she was in complete shock. A beauty, to put it bluntly, stunningly beautiful. If she is that chic, then that description fits her, and she admits it. The girl couldn't believe that it was really her in the reflection. If she is so beautiful, and is also a hereditary drawing magician, then why didn't they make her the main character? She is sure that if she took the place of that fool, it would be much more interesting. Someone knocked on the door and announced that his lordship had asked her to join him for dinner downstairs. The butler had left some lounge clothes for her in the closet. Because of the Korean mentality, she is not used to talking like aristocrats from books, and she is also unsure of Shay's noble origins. It would be a different matter if they were planning something evil, but it seems they haven't suspected anything yet. While she was washing herself, it was quiet outside. The man remarked that he saw that she had calmed down a little. A gentleman sat in front of her and told her to sit down next to him. If you think about it here, they ride horses and fight with swords just like in the Middle Ages. But there are also hot air balloons and trains. It's some kind of mixed world. She decided to ask the Duke if he was currently dating some beauty. The man said it was a wambu. Shay was surprised and asked again what it was. A collection of useless gossip and unconfirmed information. Shay realized it was just empty rumors. It's good because servants are so naive. The master asked her to try the food. This is a clam chowder, not a soft one, so it will be easy to eat. When the girl tried it, she was simply delighted it was delicious. This is because this is the first time in all this time that she is eating something normal. She almost swallowed the spoon. Lucifer suggested introducing himself first. He said his name. Shay also followed suit and introduced herself. The man decided to ask how she had been captured. Shay tried to remember what was in the original work. The fourth villain, who inherited the rare magical gift of drawing specimen, was born in the small magical kingdom of Edmund. With her ability to turn anything she drew into reality, Shay had no equal. Well, naturally, many people with enormous power wanted to gain such power. They looked for magicians and turned them into their slaves. Even dying with my tongue bitten off was better than living like that. So she said they found out she was a drawing mage. Apparently they were hunting her. Shay said she ran through the desert without a pencil or paper. The gentleman understood her and noted that in that case she had nowhere to return to. Shay didn't quite understand why he was intimidating her, because she would run away as soon as she felt better. Lucifer told her to stay here for now if she had nowhere else to go. The girl realized that this was a scene from the memories of the real villain number 4. Lucifer hoped she would testify against criminals accused of slave trading and running illegal auctions. Once the investigation was over, he would send her wherever he said Shay didn't mind noting that she needed time to recover anyway. And now the gentleman must go on business. Having spent his entire life in high society, the Duke seems to be unable to bear long conversations. Shay decided that she would probably feel uncomfortable too if someone stared at her face for that long. He left. The girl was delighted when she saw the butler and told him that she had one question for him. The gentleman was ready to listen to her. She could ask whatever she wanted. Shay decided to ask what she could do there to make a lot of money. The servant informed the master that she was trying to find out how to make a lot of money. He apologized, but he should have told him so. She didn't even wander near his lordship's room at night. And then Lucifer asked, "What about the hair?" He never noticed her bending over for any reason. Apparently, she was not interested in magic, but in money on the contrary. The gentleman asked if he thought she only wanted money. The butler was absolutely certain of it. It would be good if she didn't fall in love with him. And the butler advised that the gentleman try to test her. After these words, Lucifer thought about how to do this. Small figurines helped the girl take a bath. Perhaps the best way to make a lot of money is to set up production of luxurious outfits for aristocrats, or to engage in the entertainment industry. This world and reality are no different when it comes to ways to get rich. Create a luxury clothing brand. This thing will work out either way, so we need to think it through carefully. Is there a good alternative to alcohol that could be used in the entertainment industry? Of course, there are no people who don't like to have fun. Yes, her adaptability is better than 999% of people. Everything had changed so drastically, she didn't even shed a tear. Of course, now she could say goodbye to the mold and the basement room. And she thinks it's 100 times better than living with student loans after graduation. Besides, she could get rich here. Lucifer approached her and asked if everything was all right, which greatly surprised the girl. She realized an hour had already passed, and now she knew why he was there. Shay said everything was fine and she'd be right out. She needed to rinse off again. The door opened, and Lucifer entered her room. The girl was in complete shock and began to apologize to him for having to see this. Shay apologized many more times, but the man stood rooted to the spot. Lucifer informed her that he had not seen anything, so she could continue washing, and apologized for disturbing her. The little figures meanwhile laughed at her, and the girl was very angry and said that she would kill them now. Her bright future has fallen into ruin, and she doesn't understand how she can look Lucifer in the eyes anymore. She just found a way to earn money for food and a normal life. Lucifer was showing off and thinking that he had noticed it from the start, of course, but she was still so skinny. Plus, all those abrasions she got during her captivity. It is clear from her that she is from a noble family. She does not even have a servant next to her. Lucifer also did not show her due respect. The gentleman turned to Maynard and asked him to bring his guest some ointment that he could use on his wounds during the campaign. He also asked that she be given a lot of bread with her food so that she could recover faster. The servant was shocked and refused to even eat the bread. Then Lucifer added that he should add more meat and increase the amount of cheese and ham. Anything that will help you gain weight. The servant informed the master that this would be done. Lucifer again thought about how she needed to eat more bread and meat to gain weight. But all this is very strange before he only met girls who deliberately tried to get closer to him. He always felt terribly sick about it, but he doesn't understand why she doesn't evoke the same feelings in him. He thought about what if there was a girl like Shay next to him. She looked so indifferent, even though he saw her naked. This is either because the sun god's power doesn't work on foreigners, or because there is something special about her. To be honest, he thought that this girl would immediately fall for him, like everything else. In order to neutralize the scorching heat of the sun, a woman with strong lunar energy is needed. This is the solution that his ancestors who suffered from the same problems found. The best thing is to get married living under the same roof, can neutralize the solar energy, and greatly improve the situation. The problem is that the partner must be rational enough to strictly fulfill the obligations of a fictitious marriage. If a marriage starts with his feelings, eventually, the feelings from the woman's side will become much stronger. Her hair was the color of dawn, as if she had been born from flames. Lucifer is truly scared and strange, so he doesn't understand at all what to do. His hope is growing stronger and stronger, and he doesn't know what to do with it. Shay now feels like she's the material for her homeroom teacher. The girl tried to calm down and relax in this situation. Suddenly, a man approached her. Shay awkwardly greeted Maynard. The servant asked her to go inside and wait there for a while, as he would bring the rest. It seems that Lucifer hasn't arrived yet, and she's very interested in what tasty food will do today. When she approached the table, she saw a whole pile of baked goods. There were so many macarons. She decided to try one, but suddenly someone approached her and asked if she had arrived yet. The girl realized it was Lucifer. She also noticed the steak. The girl believed she was in heaven. Lucifer told her to begin eating. This is simply amazing. She never knew vegetables could taste so good. She decided to first watch him eat the steak and then repeat after him. Lucifer thought she didn't like meat, but Shay said she did. The gentleman said that in that case, he would cut it for her. This rather surprised the lady, and she looked at him, but he immediately cut it up and said she could eat it. Shay thanked him, but she didn't understand why she was doing it. Lucifer noted that they would tighten up early, only if she ate well. Shay was very embarrassed and said that he was of course right. She was embarrassed because he saw these wounds while she was washing herself. But he said he didn't see anything Shay saw on the evening news, that he was having an affair, but with another girl. Lucifer noted that he wasn't particularly interested in any of this, but even if he just went to a restaurant and asked for a menu, some journalist would definitely write an article about it. Shay asked if he had ever tried talking to the publisher, but the man said it was simply useless. The girl asked him why he thought so. Lucifer simply replied that it was because the princess herself was behind it all. The princess is the number 2 villain, constantly trying to get between the main characters. She's powerful enough that they often refer to her as the heir to the throne. But she has a sadistic streak, and her hobby is making handsome men cry. At some point, it became his routine to check in the morning to see what kind of nonsense had been written about him this time. Even if he doesn't want to do it, he still has to in order to read other articles. Shay asked if he knew how young ladies read magazines these days, but Lucifer said he'd never been interested in that. He can't fight off the demons that stalk him every time he returns from work. Bribing servants is common practice, so there's no one in this house except Maynard and Theobald. Even in his own residence, they spy on him while he bathes. They ignore the danger signs and throw themselves at his feet during training, so he has a proposition for her. Shay asked him what he wanted. Lucifer firmly stated that he wanted to marry her. The girl was in complete shock and didn't even know how to react to it. She didn't quite understand why he suddenly made such a decision. Lucifer added that it was only for 3 years. She only needed to be his wife for 3 years. Shay asked if her hearing was okay, and asked again if he was really asking her to marry him now. Lucifer said that, more precisely, he would like to get engaged first and only then have a wedding. In any case, the point is marriage. She won't have to fear for her life anymore. Shay asked why he was acting as if she'd already agreed. Lucifer said that she should think carefully, because if she became his wife, she would be able to take for herself all the bribes and gifts that were offered to her, and he won't say a word against it. After that, the girl asked him why she thought he trusted her so much. Lucifer noted that she was quite doubtful. Shay noted that this was natural. She barely knew him and did not understand why he was making her such an offer. Lucifer noted that she was apparently also straightforward. Someone at the auction, he originally planned to destroy all those freaks there. But the moment he saw her, it was as if a revelation had struck him. Despite the fact that she had been drugged with something, her look said that she wanted to tear them all apart, and this impressed him quite a bit. Lucifer thought that if he chose her, she would be able to surprise everyone, considering that she had already spoken to him on a first-name basis. She would definitely not be shy in front of the princess. Shay wasn't sure whether to take this as an insult or a compliment. She might have to stay here forever, so this was a good chance. He offers her money and a luxurious life. There is at least a year left before the main character appears, so there is still plenty of time. Lucifer reiterated that he wasn't interested in marriage and didn't want to get married for real, but he needed to create the appearance of a love that lasted forever. She will be allowed to use his name and do whatever she comes in, and she will also be able to speak to everyone on a first-name basis. Shay was surprised and asked if she would be executed for this. But Lucifer said he would take care of everything and asked that the most luxurious and obnoxious women in this empire become his, so that upon seeing her, no one would even think of approaching him. He could at least disperse the she-wolf by calling the tigress for help. It's possible, but she wonders how much he'll pay her. He said 10 billion gaudas. If 1 gauda is equal to 10,001, it's hard to even imagine how much that is. Besides, the prices were lower here, so if he paid that much, they'd have a deal. Shay decided she'd happily show them what a real bitch meant. Lucifer was pleased to hear such an answer. The girl asked if he could give her half the amount in advance. The man noticed she'd suddenly started talking. Shay was worried about where she'd have to work if she couldn't return to the real world, but the money was good. First, she will sign a contract and receive money. When the main character appears, she will simply run away. She decided it would be easy. Shay promised Lucifer that she would show him her incredible acting skills. But she wants to set 2 more conditions for this. Lucifer asked what they were. First of all, no matter what happens, he must always remain on her side. Secondly, if he truly falls in love with someone, he will send her away and make sure that no one can track her down. Because the villains in this book are just psychopaths, Lucifer agreed and said that all these conditions were a small price to pay for a normal life. Shay said that he shouldn't worry, he'll get married and then get divorced, and she'll scare away all the girls who dare to approach him. She looks very excited, and I wonder how much she can buy with 10 billion. Lucifer ordered his servant to bring the contract. He immediately brought it to the girl. Shay decided to take a look and asked if he had prepared it while she was sleeping, and the man confirmed it. Her name is Titania Overton. She likes it. It sounds like a fairy's name, and it suits her very well. She comes from a poor village family who came to the capital to get a job as a maid, but she was unlucky and was captured. The girl pointed out that this was a story about Cinderella, but Lucifer didn't quite understand what she was talking about. We need a romantic fairy tale that everyone loves. Titania said she doesn't mind. It looks pretty good, so she'll agree to do it. Suddenly, Lucifer jumped up, and the girl did not quite understand what was happening. He climbed onto the table, and after a few moments, he was right on top of Shay. It was an ambush, but the man told her to be quiet because the enemy was always on the alert. The girl didn't quite understand what it was, and Lucifer was wondering if they were still there. Needles laced with sleeping potion. Titania didn't quite understand what they were. I assumed they were aimed at her face. Only one in particular would use such dirty methods to eliminate a rival villainess number 1, but she decided it didn't matter who it was. She asked the gentleman to turn away, but Lucifer didn't quite understand what all this meant. Titania told him to stop chatting and take off his jacket. Titania apologized, but Lucifer did not understand at all what this woman was doing. Titania is not one of those people who will not rest until she has taken revenge on her offender. She asked if they were still there, and Lucifer confirmed it. Then she turned to him, and Titania told him to undress. Lucifer sighed with displeasure and immediately undressed. They finally caught the culprits. They disappeared, so Lucifer is curious about what she drew. But Titania pointed out that it was a company secret. She didn't even know how she'd say she'd drawn fireballs aimed at their backsides. She pointed out that whatever the case, he should not forget that he had to pay her. Lucifer said that he wouldn't forget, so she shouldn't worry, and should call him by his name in public. Titania was embarrassed at first, then suggested that she call him Darling Bunny Baby Sunshine, and told him to choose from the four. Lucifer was in complete shock when he heard this, but he decided not to respond or react to it in any way. Titania decided that no matter how terrible the other villains were, she thought she could handle them, because she won't turn down a 10 billion contract. Her life is in danger, so she doesn't quite understand why she would run away at all. Even after what happened, such a thought never even occurred to her. Titania must put everything she remembers about this book into order. Villain number 1 is Peridot Chrysiona, the prince's daughter. Villain number 2 is Princess Tiol's tyrant. Villain number 3 is Countess Maisie Amantine. She remembers that Maisie is the president of the Lucifer fan club, but other than that, nothing else really comes to mind, so she shouldn't pay attention to her. The biggest problem is that the number 1 villain has no moral standards or limitations, and she's not sure if that means she can kill anyone she wants. One wrong move, and it will all end badly. And finally, there's only one way to defeat villain number 2. The Duke sat in his room and thought about what she had suggested he call him. The servant asked if he was thinking about the lady. Now Lucifer remarked that nothing was known to him. You can't hide it. Afterwards, the man noted that his master had received these injuries while protecting her, and he thought there was something he liked about her. Lucifer remarked that she was so strange. The servant assumed he was referring to her character. The gentleman will turn out to have nerves of steel, but that's good. The vision does not know what will happen in the future. The Duke completely agreed with him, and then the servant remarked that now the master needed to sleep. Lucifer asked if she really wouldn't give up. Blago confirmed it and said she wouldn't give up and wouldn't die. The Duke hoped so. Apparently, he was lucky to meet her. From the moment he first saw Shay, she had never shown any weakness. He can't explain what he felt at that moment. Perhaps a flash, an inexplicable feeling that everything could work out with her. Lucifer understood that soon they would have a lot to do, so it was already difficult for him. In the morning, Titania came to his room and told Lucifer to wake up. The man left the room, saying that he had already woken up. In this case, he needs to get out quickly, because they need to buy a lot of things. Titania had thought about this before, but he's really handsome. Lucifer said he'd just call the merchants here. The girl tried to calm herself down so that she wouldn't think about it, because he belonged to someone else. She disagreed and said she wanted to go. If they went outside, other people would see her, and that would let them know he was in a relationship. Lucifer said that this cannot be done, and the girl was in complete shock and did not understand why. The man said it was dangerous and asked if she had been attacked a couple of days ago. Titania noted that since we were talking about it, she had prepared something to defend herself. She pulled out the drawing and said that she would keep it in her cleavage, and also said that he could look at her ankle. Lucifer pointed out that she didn't need to show him everything in such detail. She meant that he didn't need to worry so much, and that she wanted to buy him a good watercolor. He was embarrassed then because he saw her ankle. It was strange these clothes were so uncomfortable, but she was ready to go. Titania knows he doesn't like women, but he must play his part well. Lucifer promised to try. If he doesn't know how to behave, then he should just play along with her, and she asked him if he had enough savvy for this. Great, that's enough for now. It would be great if the first rumors started to spread. First, I need to draw attention away from Lucifer and onto myself. That will probably make him feel more comfortable. The gentleman announced that they had arrived and added that there was an art shop there. She's very lucky to be here. He told her she doesn't have to worry about the cost of materials, so she can buy the best at his expense. Lucifer is her wallet, that is her poor client, and so she will do everything to the highest standard. She had the look of a former fine art student. Lucifer asked her to take his hand. He looks like a completely different person when he acts like this. Luckily, there's a lot of spectators here. Titania should succeed in her first mission. She thanked him, but immediately fell into his arms. Everyone around was in complete shock. And then the girl thanked the gentleman, because she did not fall, thanks to him, and also called him by his short name. He also used the girl's short name. Judging by the way he's shaking, he really doesn't like women. Titania noted that all these spectators would now burn their eyes into her back. If this continues, she might even die. She will have to endure it since she committed sins and appropriated such a popular, handsome man. It was simply adorable. Lucifer noticed that she didn't really care about what others thought. Well, that much, Titania asked him to hold something for her. Judging by how easily she switched from formal to informal speech, Titania clearly grew up in a noble family. Lucifer asked if she needed brushes, and she confirmed that of course she did, and that she should have bought more right away. The gentleman said she could choose freely, and also, she was shorter than he thought. Titania is 170 centimeters tall. There are so many different sized hands here, which is great. Her wrists are so thin, yet so strong. It would have suited her to stand at an easel, holding a brush in her hand. Suddenly, she called out to Lucifer. The girl whispered something in his ear, and he was very surprised Titania didn't quite understand what it was. And she also had no idea what they should do. From today on, they would begin a series of attempts to kill her in every possible way. Anyway, if she were to die, she would first want to infuriate them, so she pulled him by the shirt and whispered an apology for it. She also started kissing him, right in front of everyone. Lucifer was completely shocked and very embarrassed. All the ladies in the area were absolutely furious. When they saw this, Titania was pleased with herself. She turned to the gentleman and said it was an accident. The saleswoman was also in complete shock and immediately began counting them. If this continues, sales of tomorrow's weekly will skyrocket. In that case, the publishers will have to pay her a percentage. They started to leave. Now their gazes burned into her back even more intensely. Titania offered Lucifer to dry himself off, but he didn't react, and she was surprised that he wouldn't. After Lucifer asked what about her, he asked if she would wipe her lips. The girl didn't quite understand why she was doing this. Her spirits were lifted by the fact that she had stolen a kiss from such a handsome man. Next, they go not to where the #1 villain buys her expensive outfits, but to a store that sells very good quality dresses, but it is on the verge of bankruptcy due to more popular boutiques. The main character in the original novel discovered this place by accident, but she is happy to take advantage of her discovery. The woman was shocked when she saw that she had visitors and immediately greeted them. Lucifer told her that they wanted to look at dresses that would suit his bride. He's a man who's not into fashion and doesn't understand it at all, so he asks for help. Price doesn't matter. The main thing is that it fits her. His lover said that the tailoring at this atelier was very good. Titania herself wanted to point out that he was right. The women said they would dress the future Duchess in the latest fashion and do everything to ensure their expectations were met. Since the Duke and his brides bought clothes here today, it is clear that word will soon spread about this shop, and no one will care about the design of the dresses, as I expected no matter what she does. Everything suits her, so she will take it all. She sat with the Duke and rested Lucifer, said that if she was tired, she could take a nap. The servant noted that she needed to be carried to the bedroom. Lucifer said that it was not necessary because he would wake her up, so Lucifer would do everything himself, and the servant could go. The servant immediately understood everything and left the room. Lucifer watched her, not understanding where she had come from. While she was sleeping, he read all the available information about her, but found nothing useful. It was just that the human traffickers confirmed that she was captured in the desert, but it was not possible to find out where she had been before that. Lucifer didn't think a drawing poppy could wander aimlessly like that. It's simply amazing. The gentleman ordered the service to prepare the best varieties of his wife's favorite fruits and ordered that a drawing room be allocated for her to move all the purchased materials there. He also asked him to hang on the walls paintings by famous artists that were in the possession of their family. He is in a good mood, and touching her does not cause disgust, even though it was more of an accidental brush of their lips than a kiss. At that moment, he felt like his heart was about to stop. For some reason, he wants to feel it again. The next day, they distributed an emergency edition. Everyone was talking about the Duke of Schweiden's new bride. Newspapers were selling like hotcakes. Everyone was shocked. The Vision knew that he refused to marry for political reasons, and they were also wondering who was the happy one. A mysterious man approached the boy and asked to be given a newspaper too. When the boy looked at him, he was very scared, but the man said that he would not eat him. He just wanted him to sell him a newspapers. Just as he thought it was her, he was on the trail of the slave traders. And when he found her, she suddenly decided to marry that idiot of a duke. There's just a little bit left to wait, and very soon he will get to her. I'll ask the princess if she should leave everything as is. The woman screamed that the article was so rude that she was speechless. She also asked if anyone knew the young woman would become a duchess. That's simply unacceptable. What if she's royal and they don't know anything about her? They can't just watch from the sidelines. The woman remarked that she understood what they were talking about. This magnificent man's lover. The women decided that they needed to organize a secret party, and of course they would invite only members of their fan club. A little over 2 weeks had passed since she had settled at the Duke's estate. During this time, she was attacked 3 times at night, twice, while out for a walk, and once had iron filings mixed into her bath cream. Titania doesn't know if she should be grateful that at least they didn't put anything in the food. By this time, there were probably enough rumors about her to wrap the city's fortress wall around them 5 times. And she doesn't know if they should try to take a walk outside the residence. Lucifer remarked that he had a suitable spot in mind. Titania wondered where it was. The man pointed out that it was dangerous there, but the lady pointed out that she was in danger even when she was just lying on the bed, so he had to say what kind of place it was. This is the Imperial Palace. There is also a training ground for knights there. The girl was completely shocked when she heard about the knights' training ground. She asked again. Lucifer didn't understand that he'd asked her if everything was okay. It's a disaster. It seems Lucifer wants to introduce her as a knight of the Order of Rentus. But she still agreed, after which he asked her if she was sure about this. Titania remarked that she was, and that whatever the case there was, someone there she would like to meet. This is necessary to save her life. A project to save her life. The first mission is to win Ziotina Adels over to our side. Ziotina Adelis, one of the elite of the knightly order possessed of extraordinary powers, has always blindly followed the protagonist. If she manages to befriend Ziontina and the other villain, everything will be different, especially with Ziontina. She'll be a tedious task to deal with, so it would be great if she became her ally. After Ziontina met the main character at the ball, she became her devoted supporter, and since this had not happened yet, she had a chance. Ziontina has a weakness for cute and short girls. She is a beauty, but a little tall. Either way, you never know until you try it, so she's ready to go. The official duel will take place today, and the rankings within the knightly order will be updated. Titania asked if civilians could be present. Lucifer pointed out that the assumption is that he took her along because she's the bad girl he fell in love with, but usually not. Titania understood everything and noted that she was playing the bitch, but that was good. They arrived at the place. The girl was surprised when she saw the knights' training ground because it was so huge. All the knights stirred, for the captain had arrived. They immediately jumped up and stood before their master. This reminded her once again that Lucifer was a member of high society. The knight decided to inquire who it was next to him. The Duke remarked that he would like to introduce her to them first. This is his fiancée, Miss Oberon. The men said they understood, but they themselves were completely shocked that he had a fiancée. Lucifer asked them what kind of reaction they were having, as it seemed very rude. They immediately apologized for being so rude. There is a clear hierarchy here, according to which they are obliged to obey the head, that is Lucifer. Titania noted that there was nothing wrong with that, because everyone would react that way. The gentleman, on the contrary, turned to her, but the girl said that everything was fine, and apologized for having come here so unexpectedly. She knew that was my custom, but she was very curious. The knights immediately became embarrassed and said there was nothing wrong with it, and she could make herself at home. It was not a place to show up just out of curiosity, so the woman approached the captain and asked him to send her home, because it's a violation of the rules. Titania noted that she looked even better in person, but how the main character melted that block of ice was completely unclear. She immediately realized that now was not the time to behave like this, so she apologized and said that she did not mean to cause inconvenience. Titania knew it wasn't right, but the thought of the Duke leaving her alone, she tried to think of something sad, something to cry about. The knights immediately placed themselves when they saw her and said that everything was fine and she could stay, but the woman was against it. Anya, of course, must follow the rules, but their captain finally brought a bride, so they don't think it's necessary to be so heartless. Titania asked if everything was absolutely all right, and the knight said that, of course, everything was definitely all right, and he would prepare something so that the miss could sit down. The female knight approached Titania and remarked that she was playing her role quite skillfully. The lady did not quite understand what she had told her and wanted to ask again, but Liz got ahead of her and asked what was wrong with her. Titania realized that her plan had gone down the drain and that she probably wouldn't be able to get along with her at all. And now the duel between Madame Ziontina Adals and Sir Ormond Tyrols. Ziontina always won against other knights. The scene where she, covered in mud, stood over her defeated opponent was considered one of the best in the novel. After that, she took off her helmet and approached the main character, who was almost in tears, and she said she dedicated this victory to her noble ladies. It was simply amazing. Only knights ranked in the top 30 can participate in the duel. She asked what place Ziontina Adalis currently ranks in. Ziontina is currently in 31st place. Titania was shocked and noted that she would be in the top 30 today. Lucifer asked how she knew about this. She hadn't seen her in combat. The girl immediately became embarrassed and said she didn't even know. Then she decided to change the subject and shouted about how loud it was. Lucifer asked her if she was serious. It's all so unexpected. It's harder to watch than she thought. It's like someone banging cymbals in your ear for an hour. Lucifer asked her if she could see that boy near the sword stand. The lady noticed what she saw, but did not quite understand why he said this. He's the princess's spy, and he's pretending not to notice him, even though he knows who he is. He's standing there specifically, where he can see them clearly. So he's interested in how to create an accurate picture of their relationship. Even a place like a knightly order can be infiltrated by spies. So next time she should bring a pair with her, because it's too noisy here. Suddenly, Lucifer covered her ears and told her that the fight would soon end. Titania asked if it was true. When he covered her ears, it was much better. In his appearance, they were very large. Titania also asked if she could choose who she would root for. Lucifer said why not, as all knights get the support of the ladies during the duel. Titania shouted that Ziontina had snow-white skin and that she was also very beautiful and would definitely win. Titania felt embarrassed because she didn't want to make her blush. Lucifer noticed that no matter what she did, she exceeded all his expectations. Titania asked if this was a compliment and realized that Madame now hated her. Lucifer told her not to see herself and added that Ziontina was very shy. She was shocked when she heard this, as she couldn't believe she was so embarrassed. At this rate, she's sure to score. The man remarked that he envied her, since such a beauty was rooting for her. Ziontina screamed at him to shut his mouth and began to attack in a rage. She knocked the sword out of his hands, thus winning. Lucifer remarked that it was good work, and she rose in the rankings. Titania asked what the technique was that she had just used. Lucifer stated that it is not so much a technique as a village that manifests itself once a certain level is reached. The girl believed it was because the sword's power was growing. Her husband confirmed that this was indeed the case. It was simply amazing. Suddenly, she saw a knight standing next to her, and she had no idea how long she'd been standing there. He hadn't even noticed her. Ziontina announced that, as the winner of the duel, she was asking the captain to be her opponent. Lucifer announced that he accepted her challenge. Another fight, the same as the last one-on-one. In that case, they decided to start. It's just amazing, and it's truly spectacular. Retro told the lady that he had brought iced tea and asked her to try it, but the lady told him to be quieter. Introduced, trying to concentrate. On the field of pain, Hallelu Lucifer earned the nickname the Mad Knight. In fact, when he fights, the air is filled with a frantic tension. Besides, he looks like he's having fun right now. His fiancée even thought about it. He is such a skilled warrior that no one can even leave a scratch on him, which makes the princess a very outstanding person. Suddenly, she noticed that the spy had disappeared. Ziontina struggled to somehow resist. There was nothing wrong with such a drink, but it was strange that there was no one next to her. Well, if it were her in his place, she would probably have tried to attack. It seemed safe enough. A spear had flown into her, a little further to the left, and she would have died on the spot. Because of the dust that rose, no one noticed that she had used magic. Well, when she looked at the field, she didn't understand where they both had gone and thought she was delirious. Ziontina approached her and asked if she had told her to come home, but Titania only asked Madame where Lucifer was now. She reported that the captain had gone to catch the attacker. The lady apologized for causing them trouble and couldn't count the number of times her life had been in danger. And then the knight thought for a moment and decided to ask what kind of bird was next to her. This is a guard bird that she bought in the alley. If it weren't for her, she would have been pierced with a spear. Ziontina asked if such a thing could really happen. Titania was completely shocked that she believed her. The lady noted that she had not been in the capital for long, and did not know the local customs had not done anything bad to anyone, but everyone hated hers. The woman said she could inform his lordship. Regardless of who was behind this, a thorough investigation was needed, and those responsible were severely punished. Titania apologized for her inappropriate behavior. Ziontina hadn't been out in public for a long time, and she thought it would be okay if she couldn't go to a cafe or an exhibition like others. Titania noted that everything was fine because she did what she was supposed to. Suddenly, she saw her husband and was very glad that he was already here. She threw herself into his arms and said that she was so scared, and yet she was curious who it was. Lucifer whispered that it was a hired killer. The woman asked him if he had caught the killer anywhere. The gentleman reported that it was near the greenhouse. According to the original story, the number one villain plotted her plots in the Imperial Palace's greenhouse. Lucifer asked her if she knew anything, but she denied it, except that the spy had disappeared shortly before the attack. Lucifer asked again, and Titania asked him at the meeting whether he should have been in that very place all the time. The gentleman asked if she was saying he had disappeared shortly before the attack. That was exactly it. He promised to take it into account. She was sure Lucifer would find out if the guy was a double agent, but she thinks she has managed to win Ziontina over to her side. Of course, she still looks at her strangely. Titania was reading something and suddenly choked on water. The servant asked what was wrong with her. The mistress asked for water. According to an anonymous knight from the Order of Rentis, this lady is very mysterious. As soon as he saw her, his heart began to beat faster, and he became a prisoner of love. Such a ridiculous article came out, but nevertheless, everyone will simply think that this is another rumors. One more piece of gossip, one less, it simply doesn't matter. Another servant reported that the missus had received a letter. Titania didn't listen at first, but then surprised asked if the letter was for her. The servant asked if she wanted to open it and read it right away. The woman confirmed this, and it looked like an ordinary letter. She realized that it was an invitation to a tea party from Princess Tioles. The servant asked if his mistress would go, and Titania immediately said that naturally she could not miss such a thing, and she believes that she must go and see the main culprit of all Lucifer's troubles with her own eyes. He merely noted that his mistress was truly trustworthy. Titania remarked that she could have become a general. She asked Maynard to send someone to the boutique and have them deliver one of the ready-made dresses. If it was difficult to choose, then they shouldn't bring them all. The girl was very happy because she would finally see this nasty woman. Before the servant arrived, she needed to draw a maid who would protect her. The girls reported that they had already arrived and asked the lady if she was planning a tea party for the princess. The lady told them to sit down. The women continued to pester her with questions about whether she was going to wear clothes from their boutique there. First, the mistress wants to explain the rules. First, stealing Lucifer's underwear is prohibited. The women didn't quite understand what this meant. Secondly, his hair must not be collected and sold. Third, I will never tell you anything about what will happen here. The ladies said that this is exactly how it will be. And finally, they should not fall in love with Lucifer and not hang on him. And then she asked them if they could promise her this. One of the women remarked that Lady Titania really did love the Duke. After all, it's something like she's saying that she will protect her man and trust him or protect her lover. They signed the contract and cats immediately approached them. The woman did not quite understand who they were. The lady said that these cats are the keepers of the contract bought from the magician if they break at least one of the rules. Then these cats will turn into monsters and tear them to pieces. Look, they said they wouldn't do anything wrong. The lady remarked that of course these cats were very cute. The servant announced that the snacks were ready. Titania told the women that they could help themselves, and if they particularly liked anything, they could order more. While they are working here, if they get hungry, the servant will prepare whatever they want. The lady asked if it was really possible to ask for whatever they wanted. Titania said that's exactly it. Because she has a lot of money, it's simply amazing and chic. By the way, the number of kidnappings has noticeably decreased recently. Of course, it could have been even less, but this is still a good result. The man asked if she needed him anymore, and understood that this meant that she had really left him. The gentleman came and immediately asked where Titania was, that she was with the guests. Lucifer was surprised, because he didn't quite understand who they were talking about. The lady said everything was great, because everything suited the lady, as she thought the gray dress suited her best. It highlights her fiery red hair. The other dress, however, resembles a fairy costume, and it's best to present yourself as a compelling villain from the start. The servant informed the gentleman that the lady had invited seamstresses and milliners from the atelier. The gentleman didn't quite understand why, so the servant told him that the princess had invited her to a tea party. Lucifer understood and asked him to take care of the guests. The servant added that Maynard had noticed someone suspicious today. As the carriage was leaving the mansion, he saw a tanned man standing nearby. Lucifer assumed it was a warrior from the desert. Scarecrow couldn't tell for sure, but he seemed to have a tattoo on his face. The master had no idea what the man from the desert was doing in their empire. He wasn't exactly sure, but he suggested the master send people to search for him. The Mat Man has an unusual appearance, so they'll quickly pick up his trail. Perhaps he has some connection to Titania. It would be good to find out more. Lucifer decided to take a bath and thought about the warrior from the desert. It was the only time in his life when a duel ended in a draw. It was an eerie feeling, as if everything around him had disappeared, and there were only the two of them left. Lucifer, that man with the slanted eyes, looked like he was ready to die in battle because life weighed heavily on him, and he had the power to kill Lucifer. The man was sure it wasn't him, but later realized he was overreacting. His wife knocked on his door and asked if he was asleep. He answered, and that's why she was angry. But she still turned to him, calling him dear, and saying that she missed him to death. Lucifer opened the door in complete shock. Titania remarked that he was too handsome, because she had no idea what she was saying. The woman asked if he was going somewhere and inquired why he had come here. The gentleman announced he was going to a tea party. Titania first asked which tea party he wasn't going to, but she was the one invited. Lucifer announced he was going to a tea party hosted by the princess. The girl was completely shocked and didn't understand why he was going. He just said that as an escort, if she took him with her, then they would look like a cute couple. If she had already finished getting ready, then they could go. Titania didn't understand if he was serious about coming there, because it was like the battlefield. Titania decided to ask why he had hardly been seen lately. Lucifer informed her that he was busy and that he had done something for her that needed to be sorted out, and that it also concerned hers. He asked if anyone had helped her when she crossed the desert. Titania understood what he meant and said that she didn't even know. She simply had no idea. After all, Villainess number 4 first appears during the auction. To be honest, she doesn't really remember it. Lucifer was surprised by this, and the lady decided to ask why he was asking about this at all. Lucifer said it was just like that, and remarked that they would arrive soon. He offered her his hand. Titania continued to call him pet names. Lucifer pointed out that it was best to use only one pet name at a time. The lady was very glad to see Mr. Lucifer. She wasn't quite sure what he was doing there. The woman assumed he had come to meet them. They were so eager to see him that they asked him how he wished to do so. Titania decided she was building him now. She threw some bugs at them. The woman did not understand at all what it was, and ordered the maid to take it off her quickly. Titania clung to Lucifer and said that she was so scared. She was shocked to learn that centipedes were found in the princess's palace, and she couldn't quite understand why they didn't clean it at all. It's so dirty here, and she can't stand being here anymore. And she doesn't understand at all how the place where the princess's belly is can be so terrible. One of the women said she was there. As soon as she appeared, this centipede crawled out. So they think that this means that it was she who was wandering around all sorts of garbage dumps and dragged this disgusting caterpillar here from there. The other woman agreed with her. She didn't know where this lady came from, but she had disgusting manners. Insulting Her Highness's palace was the same as insulting her. Titania said that she was wandering around. Now she came here, and this morning they were very hot. The women were completely shocked by what she had just said. The girl continued saying that the gentleman had simply not wanted to let her go today. And then she asked him if it was true. Lucifer knew he had no choice, so he confirmed it. Then they'll go. Titania turned to the butler and asked where the tea party was taking place. The man didn't understand her right away, so he asked again, and the woman repeated that she had asked where the tea party was taking place. The butler immediately apologized for staring at her like that. Titania informed him that it was all right as she was used to it, but she wanted him to answer her question. After that, the man pointed in the direction they were supposed to go. The girl thanked him and remarked that it was good that she asked me about it. She's downright proud of herself. But Lucifer doesn't look particularly important. Titania didn't quite understand what was going on and thought that he didn't like the servant. She turned to him and thanked him for seeing her off. But the man considered it his duty. Titania added that it was time for him to return now, as men were not allowed there. Lucifer told her to shout to him if anything happened. They finally meet. Villain number 2 is Tiol Zadella the Tyrant. She came closer to the princess and remarked that she was glad to meet her. The lady asked if her guests wanted to play with dolls. And you're not exactly a good topic of conversation. Titania remembered her nickname was the Doll Collector. She flirted with men. Women were collected at inaugural parties and played with people like dolls. Titania said she would refuse. And the princess asked, what about becoming her doll? After all, she's generous with her toys and allows them a lot. Well, the mistress said she refuses again. The woman didn't quite understand why she was refusing. Titania said she was too beautiful to be a doll. The women were very indignant about this, but the princess said that a thing is a thing. And then she asked if she knew that she was the first one who had been so rudely rejected, and her proposal, and remarked that she was quite impudent. Titania added that she was flattering her. The princess agreed and asked him to come and sit next to her. She was very grateful to her and sat down next to her mistress. The princess decided to ask her name. The princess noted that she had never heard of a surname like hers, and it was not on the list of noble families at the imperial court. Titania remarked that it was possible. Their family was so insignificant that the ruler had no reason to single them out. The princess remarked that her mother must have been a wonderful woman, though she couldn't recall anyone like her. The girl remarked that this was true and that she had a truly wonderful mother. Naturally, that was true. The princess thinks that this is true and then asks what her real last name is. But Titania stood her ground. The tension between them continued, but the princess remarked that she loved riddles. Since she was born a genius child, there has never been a mystery she couldn't solve, so her life is quite boring. Titania wondered if she had become a new mystery to her. She certainly was, but she shouldn't let herself be unraveled too quickly, for she wanted to prolong the pleasure. She welcomed the lady into her palace, so Titania was grateful to her, but the princess believed that she should be the one thanking her. Titania remarked that she had heard that her fiancé was very popular, and added that she was very jealous. Even though they only recently got engaged, they are determined to get married. That's why she wants the princess to tell her who here likes her husband so much, and she is sure that she knows about it. The woman was shocked that you called him your husband because they still hadn't gotten married. Titania apologized and said she didn't even know where her modesty was. Since they call each other husband and wife, she sometimes accidentally says that at formal receptions. The young lady seems to have a strong sense of ownership, and the princess remarked that she's greedy. Yeah, she looks at her like she wants to stuff her. That's why Titania said there's no point in stuffing her. If a beauty like her can't move, it would be a loss for all of humanity. The princess remarked that what she wanted to make a stuffed animal out of was her personality. It was such a shame that she had no physical form. This is wonderful because her personality will not change, and she had no choice but to please His Highness. The princess promised that she would watch her, so she should be a sweetheart, and she will forgive her if she does something like that. Titania remarked that she had no idea how much she could entertain her and promised to dispel her boredom. She has to do this, a project to save her life. Mission 2, attract the princess's attention and hook her. She's taken the bait. It's a great catch. Titania was tired, the gentleman noted, so that all appearances, the party went well. The woman said that everything was fine, and then a question was heard about how she liked the princess. The lady remarked that she was particularly interesting, but this surprised the gentleman a little. Lucifer asked if she was serious. The girl said that she was, and the woman became very interested in her. The Duke was even more surprised. Her goal was to make the princess lose interest in Lucifer. If she were essentially possessed, her life would become much more peaceful. Besides, it would be useful for her to develop a strong friendship with the princess. Now Lucifer understood what she was talking about. She didn't even know what she would need for this, and asked which newspaper in this country had the most promising prospects. Not a major one, but a small or medium-sized print publication, some tabloid that is popular with young people. And it would be great if its editor-in-chief was a little greedy. Lucifer said he didn't even know maybe Tyrant House would do. In that case, it's time for them to go there. Lucifer wasn't quite sure what they were going to do there. They said the press was in the princess's hands. Well, there must be publishing houses that don't want to submit to the powers that be, so she'll take the tyrant Avos away from the princess. Mr. Is became curious about what she'll offer them in return. Titania said that she had the exclusive right to publish articles about their love story. Others may only chase them madly and publish speculations, but they will specifically call journalists from Tirn Avos and go on a date. Lucifer was shocked and asked if the tyrant house would then publish articles about them, and newspaper sales would rise. If this happens, the number of their readers will increase sharply, and they will gain increased influence on public opinion, and then on the contrary, will begin to publish truthful news. Titania noted that other speculative publications would begin to be released, and that it would take some time for this plan to be implemented. Titania assumed he didn't like her idea, since he was looking at her so strangely. He noted that, judging by everything, she was definitely an aristocrat, because she knew a lot about relationships between people and understood how to use it. A commoner would have had a hard time coming up with something like this. Titania was shocked, and he said it so calmly that it scared her. She doesn't know anything about Titania's origins in the original. There was nothing about it in the book. Therefore, the lady said that, whether she was a peasant or a noblewoman, in any case, they would hunt her. The lady thought it would be all right if she continued to insist that she had lost her memory. And then she thought about what would happen if someone appeared who knew her from the past. They arrived and the servant greeted the master, but Lucifer gestured to him to be quieter. Titania had simply fallen asleep, so they should be quiet. Theo said he would call Maynard, but Lucifer said there was no need because he could carry it himself. This wasn't how it should be. Her sparkling eyes and the lively glow on her face when she wakes up in the morning, her hair that flows over her shoulders when she turns her head. In just 1 month, this girl turned his head. But if she stays with him, then in the end, everything will fall apart. The woman next to him is doomed to suffer, and he's afraid to give in, and so he decided to remain a bachelor, but he doesn't want other men to touch her. When he tried to cover her, she quietly asked him not to leave the bedroom. Lucifer thought she wanted him to massage her feet, but then he would wake her up. He wondered if there was a way to massage her legs without her waking up. Suddenly, the lady pulled him towards her, but Lucifer immediately jumped up and did not understand what was happening. A servant approached him and asked him if the young lady was sleeping soundly. Lucifer was very embarrassed. The servant himself noticed that, for some reason, his master looked a little different. The servant said that he would report on the matter that the master had ordered to be investigated several days ago. Firstly, that stranger appeared in the capital not so long ago. They say that he still visits cheap bars and inns and shows an unusual interest in newspapers. Lucifer was surprised and asked if he knew their language, since he read the newspapers. Theo remarked that he did, and that at the very least he was a descendant of the Ram people. But the gentleman said he might be a Kun. The nomadic peoples inhabiting the desert are divided into dozens of tribes. Among them, there are many powerful clans that live near the oasis. These include the Rams and the Kuns. The gentleman asked how his appearance was described. He has black hair, red eyes, and a tattoo on his face. If so, there's a high probability he's a Kun. He even has a warrior's mark. It could have been him. The old wound immediately burst open with pain. He learned that he'd been hanging around the mansion not only on the day Maynard discovered him, so the gentleman inquired if there were any witnesses. Bitch reported that the owner of the inn where he stayed twice said that he read the newspapers every day, as if he was trying to find someone in them. Come to think of it, when he asked Titania about the desert, she pretended not to remember anything. The servant also reported that he even tried to find out who Duke Schweden was. Perhaps they were somehow connected. Lucifer remarked that he could only learn something if he saw him, and the servant was surprised that he was going to meet him. It felt like his insides were suddenly twisting. Lucifer said, not now, that for now they should just watch. Titania slept well. She didn't quite understand why she fell asleep every time she was getting ready to go somewhere. She hadn't even changed her clothes. Today she should call the maid she'd drawn, because she wanted to announce it to everyone. But first, she needed to take a bath. It's such a beautiful morning today, and the lady is in a very good mood. Lucifer asked his wife if she had caught a cold, but the lady said no because it was spring now. She also asked him to look at her painting. The Duke remarked that she had painted it beautifully. While he was there, he noticed that Lady had woken up early. Titania said she was already awake and asked if they had slept well, and also said she would show them something interesting. She asked them to close the dining room doors and come here, and to draw the curtains. She asked them to admire what she was capable of in this body. She spoke special words, and with their help brought the maid from the painting to life. She asked her to open her eyes. She immediately understood what was happening. But when she saw her mistress, she immediately rushed into her arms. She greeted her mistress. The girl said she was born to serve her, and therefore asked for a name. The mistress replied that her name was Juliet, and asked if she would serve her faithfully. The maid was overjoyed, saying it was the most wonderful thing in the world. She was very grateful that her mistress had given it to her. Lucifer remarked that it was truly amazing, as it looked just like the real thing. This old man witnessed such an incredible sight before his death. The mistress told her to obey Lucifer as well as her, and not to quarrel with the servants. And also she must never betray her creator, and look only at her, and also obey only her orders. Lucifer told his wife to be careful. The one introduced was unique, so its value was very high. She agreed with him, and said that in that case, she would kill him before she died. Lucifer pointed out that what she had just done was called creation, the prerogative of the gods. There are those who are born as drawing magicians, but they have no inclination towards this art, so they are not dangerous at all. But she is so talented that she could hold her own exhibitions. If anyone finds out about it, she will immediately become a target. The main character didn't know if her character in the original story could draw. Lucifer remarked that he certainly knew she could handle it. Titania approached Lucifer and asked when they would visit Tyrant House. The gentleman said that he had been thinking about it and that she would soon find out about it, and he had news for her. Those slave traders have been arrested, and she will just have to testify in court in 2 days. Titania can't even remember what happened now, but it's a good thing she wrote down her testimony back then. That's why she agreed now. Lucifer also said he wanted to take a short walk with her afterward. There's a nice alley near the courthouse, and they could use some downtime. Titania was surprised, and then she became happy and remarked that it would really be great. He suggested it himself, so everything is fine, and the lady wants to go there as soon as possible. The girls are also very curious about how this magistrate's court operates. It's best, of course, never to attend. Lucifer reported that it was the lady who had come to testify in case number 8920. The man showed them the right way. Lucifer asked her to stay here because he needed to prepare for the trial. The staff would tell her when to come in. The gentleman asked her not to worry, as no magic could be used inside the courthouse. Now it's clear why Lucifer told me this morning that I shouldn't take any magical drawings with me. It's not entirely clear where he was going, and I assumed it was some kind of conference room. The gentleman said that they would inform her, and noted that she could read the newspaper while she waited. Titania was surprised with you that the percentage of rumors has decreased, and there are more stories about her than stories about relationships. The result is satisfactory. A man approached her and asked the lady witness to put on a mask and enter through this door. Now she realized it was the door that led to the courtroom. The slave traders were kneeling in the middle of the room. Titania decided that they would still watch, also respected Mr. Judge, but she was completely shocked when she saw Lucifer sitting at the table. She hadn't expected that at all. Titania wasn't sure Lucifer was the judge in the novel, which is why she was so surprised. The next witness arrived. The lady told the madam to look carefully at the faces of these people. Titania said she recognized them, and then the woman asked her if she was sure, and she confirmed it. Having received testimony from 3 witnesses, the woman is asking for the death sentence to be imposed on prisoners 982 and 989. The girl was shocked that it was so sudden. Lucifer announced that his verdict was as follows. Based on the testimony of witnesses and Article 8 of the special law prohibiting slavery, prisoners numbers 982 and 989 are sentenced to death. This is simply insane! This man even has a sexy brain. Titania couldn't understand why that black suit suited him so well. It's enough to drive her crazy and make her heart jump out of her chest. He's incredibly cool. Lucifer approached her and asked if she was okay. Titania was very scared and said that of course she was. He was grateful to her for waiting for him, even though she probably felt heavy at heart. Afterwards, the gentleman asked me if she wanted to go for a walk to relax. She agreed, and as they walked through the park, She wondered when he'd become a Judge Lucifer, and you were surprised she didn't know. Titania wasn't quite sure how she could have learned this. He hadn't told her about it. The gentleman remarked that he was to blame. But everyone knows this, so he mistakenly assumed that she did too. Thus, he is the head of the knightly order and a judge. Lucifer corrected her and said he was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court state law, stipulated that only a member of their line could become the supreme judge. This is all because the Schweidens, as the offspring of the sun god, are fair and do not fall for any tricks. If he had brothers, they could have shared these responsibilities, but unfortunately, he is an only child. In any case, they should have been prepared for the death penalty earlier. So he apologized, but Titania pointed out that it was not worth it, since she didn't even have any residue left. The lady said that she was very happy Lucifer decided to ask her why. She was surprised and asked if he was unhappy, since the weather was wonderful. The gentleman remarked that he probably was, since he hadn't even thought about it. Titania told Lucifer to quickly say that he was happy. Still, the man said that he was happy, but this did not suit the girl, and she said that he should say it more vividly. I just asked him if he thought that happiness would only come if he often said that he was happy. If he finds it difficult to talk alone, she suggests trying to do it together. Titania tell him it will make him happy, he will be happy, and he must believe her, because she will definitely help him become like that. In the end, he never said he was happy, but for some reason, it seemed to her that his mood had improved. The man was in complete shock and ordered his camera brought to him quickly. This was Brumberg, editor-in-chief of the publishing house, Tierin House. The man in horror asked where his coat was, after which his subordinate immediately gave it to him. They didn't quite understand what had been with him since that morning. The girl herself didn't even know, and she also became curious about the letter. Brumberg told them not to go out and report today, but to follow him, because they have a special edition. No, a super special edition. Lucifer told his wife that she was as beautiful as she was. Titania was very embarrassed. She said she could eat a lot without gaining weight, that was her flaw. They called each other affectionate names and ate together with the reporters. The mistress also fed Lucifer, naturally. The Tyrant House immediately accepted her offer, since she promised them the exclusive right to do all official reports and interview them. They saw this as a great chance to become independent from the princess's funding. But they seem so surprised they can't even put down the menu and eat anything. This won't do. Perhaps they should change location. If journalists come to interview them, they will have to answer questions evasively. Titania called Juliet to follow her, and she happily ran after her. The lady just can't wait to see what article they come out with. Everything was going like clockwork. Titania herself wasn't sure it was possible to be so perfect. And her face is beautiful, and all her plans are successful. She doesn't understand at all how this is possible. Suddenly, she heard strange sounds and thought it was another attack, and she had to run. It seems to be an urgent matter, so she wonders if she should check what's there. But the maid said it was dangerous, so she would have a look herself. Juliet asked her to wait a little, and then opened the window herself. Anyone would have said this man looked suspicious. It's a good thing he's just standing there. We should close him down quickly. This man called the lady by name, and she was simply stunned and did not understand at all what it was. Lucifer entered the room and addressed his wife. She asked if she'd taken too long to fix her makeup, as she'd unwittingly kept him waiting. The food had all gone cold again. The man asked if everything was okay, as if she'd seen a ghost. Titania was shocked that she turned so white. She knew it wouldn't do. She informed the gentleman that they would talk in the carriage, and suggested that he move there as soon as possible. Lord, I said that they would do so. So I got tired and demonstratively called my wife with me. Titania didn't even know when he started touching her so freely. She was also very curious about who that guy was. Lucifer turned to the lady and said that he thought it was time to tell what had happened. Titania had no idea what she was supposed to say. While she was in the ladies' room, a man knocked on the window from outside. Lucifer was surprised and asked again, then remarked that it was good that Juliet was with her. The lady agreed with him and added that he then called her by name. Lucifer noted that Titania had already said she didn't remember what happened to her. The girl confirmed this once again, but it seems she is not trying to restore her memory, as if she does not want to, and Lucifer does not understand why this is so. Titania noted that she simply believed that there was no need to restore it if she was already doing well. She just wanted to live peacefully for a couple of days, and again, a hired killer, because someone attacked the carriage. But Lucifer decided that this would not happen and grabbed the lady in his arms. The Duke ordered him to identify himself and explain why he had done this. If he didn't like the answer, he would be forced to arrest him immediately. The man asked why Shay had such a look on her face, since she had said that she hated carriages because they made her feel like she was in a coffin. That's why he broke it and knows she was forced to ride in it. Besides, he thought she'd like it. It's too quiet here, and she always loves a thrill. Titania was absolutely shocked because she thought this guy was just stalkers, but it turned out he was a real madman. He noted that they hadn't seen each other for so long, and he was shocked that she wasn't happy to see him at all. He extended his hand and invited her to return to their paradise. Lucifer angrily asked what he was even talking about. The girl noticed that he was quite angry. The girl remarked that he seemed to have confused her with someone else since her name was Titania, but he said it was a lie. The girl said she was Titania Oberon, the only daughter of Viscount Oberon, and she didn't know any shades. The stranger did not understand at all why she was pretending not to know him, and if so, who was he? The girl shouted that in that case, he should take off his hood, because she did not understand at all how she could understand who he was if she could not see his face. The man asked if she had really forgotten everything. If it was a joke, then it wasn't funny to him because he already liked his face so much. So he doesn't understand why she doesn't remember it either. Nothing will change, everything is the same. She still doesn't understand who this period is, but he is handsome. Lucifer said he knew him, and that he was the first Lacoon of the Coon clan tattoo on his face. Black hair and red eyes, Lucifer hadn't seen him for a long time, but he hadn't changed at all. It was definitely him, and he left a scar on his body. He was the only one who managed to strike Lucifer with the sword. The girl was shocked since the original story said that Lucifer had been in the war and suffered a combat wound. But it was this guy who did it, and he called villain number 4 by name. That's weird. He showed himself to me, even during the war, provoked by the unification of the desert clans, so he does not understand at all why he appeared here so unexpectedly. Titania asked him to wait, because she did not quite understand what desert clans were and what Lacourm meant. She also asked if he really meant to say he was stronger than Lucifer. Between the Tyrant Empire and the other countries, there was a very hot place. Hot and an endless sandy field. There, around the oases, tribes gather, the most famous of which are the Ram and the Coon. In their language, Lacourm means warrior, and he is the strongest of all warriors. The man was very surprised, because he did not understand what he was talking about, and also he was too loud. Lucifer asked if he really didn't remember him. The man remarked that he knew he was an idiot who was constantly grieving for Shay, and he heard a hilarious joke about her being his fiancée. He turned to the girl and said that if she wanted to stay here a little longer, she could do. Then she can stay, but asks not to make him wait too long. Titania did not understand at all what he was talking about. They got acquainted and continued to say that he would always be there for her. And he also asked her not to forget about him, a man who cannot live without her, and then he said goodbye to her and quickly ran away. The girl was shocked with you that he would leave so easily, and she became interested in how close they were with villain number 4, that he was suffering so much. The atmosphere became awkward for him. Titania assumed they had crossed the desert together, or perhaps fallen in love there. She was curious if the relationship between Lucifer and Geisha was the same in the original book and in the media, which must be cool. She also had no idea how they were going to get back if the carriage was broken. So she decided to ask Lucifer how they were going to get home. But the man ignored her, simply furious. She continued calling him, but he didn't respond. And then he asked her again what she had asked. Titania said she simply thought they needed to get home soon. Lucifer apologized and pointed out that she was indeed right. He decided to summon the aerostat. Titania didn't know what it was and asked again. He hadn't used it in a while because there was an incident when he was being chased in an unfamiliar flying machine. It's simply enormous. As soon as they returned on their personal airship, Lucifer called the reporters from Tyrant House to personally inform them of the attack. The reporters asked if the identity of the attacker was known. Lucifer said no. They say he resembles the warriors of the desert, and is the tyrant in danger again? The Duke said that they should not worry, because no matter what happened, He would stand in defense of the empire. The gentleman also asked how yesterday's issue had sold. He said it was simply incredible, it was all sold out. For the first time in the publishing house's history, the entire print run sold like hotcakes. He asked him to pass this on to the staff, as they had done a wonderful job. The man asked what it was, and the lady said it was a gift because he said they had sold everything. This is very important to them, and they also asked if the lady knew how to sell more. Naturally, if Turan House's business improves, it will only benefit her. Their newspaper decided to receive sponsorship from her, and they from the Princess Time to get down to business. Tyranny also wanted to ask him something. Did he know anything about Earth's soil, for example, about fertile soils? The man thought aristocrats knew better, Tyranny asked, because she didn't know. If we talk about fertile soils, then first of all, it is worth mentioning the fertile lands in the south of the tyrant, but they already have owners. Managing the territories granted by His Majesty is the task of feudal lords. Titania wondered what was happening to the vast barren lands. He wasn't particularly aware of it, but he believed it could be found out by looking at the Imperial Palace Land Registry. If he's not mistaken, the southeast of Evershell is just such an area as it borders the desert, and there's always some kind of unrest going on there. About 10 years ago, people stopped living there, and the lands passed into the possession of the imperial family. Titania was very grateful, as this was exactly the information she needed. The man had no idea why she needed these lands. The mistress asked if there were any places in the tyrant where he could have fun with his family, like parks. The man said he didn't know, so the mistress walked him there. She also said that he could wait for news. No matter what happened, they would tell him first. The reporter was very grateful if they would keep the information strictly to themselves. Titania remarked that she had nothing more to say. The sponsorship fee would be transferred within a week after it had been approved by the Imperial Palace Chancellery. The girl thought that everything was great because she had magic and even her own zeppelin, but she also now has a profitable business. It's not quite there yet, but it's starting to take shape. Now she can take away the interest directed at Lucifer. But what will happen after the appearance of the main character is not clear. Before they connect with you, he will go through many trials if she just takes such a huge amount and disappears. Then her conscience will torment her. So she'll kill two birds with one stone. She'll build an amusement park, distract from the Duke, and make some money. It seems she will be able to find out about the land from the princess, and thinks that her plan will help her earn money for a happy old age. Well, it would be difficult if she had problems like yesterday. Titania wondered what would happen if she tried to summon the little one. He's quite large, so he needs a lot of space. Suddenly, she heard some rustling. When she looked to the side, she saw Lucifer there, practicing fencing. She nearly lost her mind when she saw his muscles. But she immediately came to her senses, and having calmed down, called out to him. The gentleman didn't quite understand what had happened. Her second personality was telling her to wake up and return to this cruel world. Titania had finally finished working on the kitten that would protect her, and she was looking for a suitable place to summon it. Lucifer remembered her saying it was large. Probably, if she invites him to the garden, he will trash all the flowers. And she also apologized for distracting him from training, and she also wonders if he is afraid to walk around so naked. Lucifer noted that he thought that today was possible, and it seemed that living together with her was bearing fruit. The girl was surprised and asked if he really liked training at home, and he confirmed it. Without those stairs, he felt much better. Titania asked if there were any mercenaries here, and she wondered if there were any mages in the area. He didn't know why, but they said they'd show the young ladies how he trained. The girl was shocked that live broadcasts existed in this world, and noted that the author had no conscience at all. First, Lucifer asked Maynard to bring the painting, and asked her to wait a bit while he changed. Titania didn't mind at all, and said that of course she would wait for him. The girl was simply losing her mind. Lucifer's body was in her memories. Titania tried to force herself to think positive thoughts, but she couldn't understand what kind of dirty thoughts she was having about such a noble man. Afterwards, he came and asked his wife if she was waiting for him. The servant heard the interesting news while cleaning out the pantry. The lady remarked that they could become her audience. Then she removed the fabric from the canvas, and everyone saw her painting. It's truly very realistic, and the lady has a truly outstanding talent. Titania was very grateful for the praise, and now she's ordering him to wake up. Suddenly, something strange began to happen, and Lucifer immediately ran to his wife. The more complex the painting, the more energy it takes to bring it to life. The man told her that there were people, and it was so hard, so there was no need to do this because she had turned pale, and it was better to stop right now. But Titania told him that she could handle it, so he didn't need to touch her, because everything was fine. She still has a little time left, but she will do it because she really needs him. It's time to go. Titania attempted this difficult task. Lucifer approached her and told her that it was dangerous, and she shouldn't put herself through it. Finally, it summoned him, a huge kitty, who would protect her from enemies. The woman told the cat to obey her. He immediately fell on his face. It's a little difficult, but she doesn't want to order him to go back. Everything is fine, but the cat's name spoils his mood. But he has to accept it, because his name is the basis of the contract and he can't change it. So he asked her to try not to call him by his name. The man was completely shocked when he realized the cat was talking. Meanwhile, the cat thought that he was allowed to talk, but he assumed that perhaps it was the mistress's servant, so he would pretend that he had not heard it. The girl couldn't understand why he was so violent. It was all because he was hungry and asking her to feed him. So the gentleman asked him whether he preferred fried or raw meat. The cat replied, raw. Beef, lamb, pork, duck. He could choose any of them. Code said marbled beef would be fine. Then Lucifer announced that everything would be served soon. He'd certainly be able to adapt to anything. The lady assumed the Duke was so delighted because he couldn't take his eyes off him. Titania turned to her husband and said that she wanted to show off her kitty to Her Highness. But she couldn't show up at the palace without an invitation, so they asked him what she should do. Lucifer told her that tomorrow they would enter the palace together during the morning meeting. If she sat in the waiting room for a while, he would be able to meet her. The girl was surprised you and I ended the meeting so quickly. Here's the plan for tomorrow. Titania thought something was going to happen, but when she heard the plan, she agreed and said she would sit quietly in the waiting room. Lucifer told her it would take an hour at most, but he thinks it will be over much sooner, and then she will bet that the meeting will last 10 minutes. Well, the gentleman noted that it was more like 15. The lady couldn't understand how they'd both decided to bet on a time shorter than half an hour. And Lucifer remarked that they simply both hated losing. Still, she looked tired, so the Duke asked her to rest for a bit. The lady agreed with him that she needed some sleep, but when she stood up, she immediately fell down and fainted, but the Duke managed to catch her. The butler asked if the lady was all right. The Duke said she was not, and that she seemed very ill. Her body was freezing, so they warmed the bed. But with symptoms like these, medications were useless. That's exactly it. Her body temperature needs to rise if she weren't sleeping. Then we could give her some hot tea. But now that's not possible. Antipyretic drugs only lower the temperature. However, he cannot leave things like this, so the gentleman ordered them to cover up and try to find at least some medicine. The butler informed the gentleman what would be done and asked him to be sure to remain close to the lady. Her body is too cold, is it, because she created life, or because of the size of her creation, or perhaps it depends on the level of complexity of the paintings. He should write this down. But suddenly, he felt someone approaching him from behind. Titania woke up. He thought she was out of her mind because she looked so strange. Lucifer held her back and asked her why she had stood up so abruptly. Suddenly, the mistress kissed him. It's completely unclear what's happening. The warmth leaves through her lips, and then she faints again. It seems that her temperature has returned to normal. And by the way, his fever has gone away, and a certain lightness has appeared in her body. Lucifer didn't know that such a connection was possible between a drawing magician and a descendant of the sun god, and decided that he needed to find out more about it. Well, the lady had such dark circles under her eyes, and the maid said that it was her fault, and she should have watched her sleep better. She had a headache, but the lady said everything was fine. But Juliet said Katya's skin had also improved, and she couldn't understand how that could be. Titania continued to reassure the maid that everything was fine, and she also wondered where Lucifer and the cat were. The master was drinking coffee and a bagel, and the window was rolling around the yard. Because the servant gave him some catnip, Titania remarked that it was simply wonderful and decided to go and have breakfast too. She greeted Lucifer, and he waited for her to wake up. He asked if she would have a bagel with blueberry jam and mascarpone today. The girl was surprised and did not understand how he found out about this. Lucifer only said that he had been watching her and noticed that she usually ate it for breakfast. She was a little impressed. After that, he gave her a bagel, and the lady was very grateful to him and wanted to say that she felt well. Suddenly, she heard strange sounds. It was the cat, and he was saying he had lost his appetite. Titania started yelling at him at first and didn't understand what he was doing, and also acted like some kind of gourmet. I sense a commotion and bustle as the lady went to the imperial palace to show the princess the cat. Who did you ask her what she was reading? And the lady told him that it was the book, The Prince and the Pauper. And it was here too. The Prince and the Pauper is a rather strange name. Titania noticed that in one kingdom there lived a prince and a pauper who looked exactly alike. They switched places, and this book tells what happened next. It's really quite interesting, but suddenly they heard a scream. The lady decided to ask what that sound was, and then told him not to be afraid because everything was fine, and also asked for a second so that she could go and check. She heard a voice asking what the girl could know about politics, and another voice keeping up the conversation. The man said that she should be ready to just get married. If she sits at home, he does not understand at all how His Majesty can allow the princess to walk around like that. The lady believed that he was immortal, or that this was a new method of suicide. The man asked if Her Highness was there. He couldn't understand where the world was heading when such dissolute women were allowed into the palace. Titania wanted to laugh because he couldn't talk like that about the princess, since she had a higher status and a better reputation. Afterwards, she approached the man and remarked that it was very rude of him. The man, horrified, asked what she had just said. She also didn't understand how she dared, and in horror, he asked if she even knew who he was. This man was the great Count Baus. But the woman remarked that she'd never heard of such a thing, and it didn't interest her, so she shouldn't know about it. The count was so loud, so she assumed the Baus family didn't understand basic etiquette. The man shouted that he didn't know who she was, but if she continued to insult him, it would be the end for her, and he believed that she had simply gone crazy. The lady remarked that she had indeed never heard of him, and called the cat. The man was surprised when he heard that there was a cat in the palace, but at that very second the cat jumped on him. The count started screaming that it was a monster, and was simply terrified. Kitty asked if he really called him a monster. He was so disgusting, so the cat asked her mistress if she could rip the bastard's face off, but the mistress forbade it. And then she turned to the count and said that he needed to learn to choose his words, otherwise he would die because of it someday. After this, the princess approached them and began asking who was making that grunting noise in the central corridor of the palace, and then asked what happened. She saw Lady Titania there. The lady immediately bowed to her and remarked that it was a great honor for her to meet Her Highness. The princess noted that while they had not seen each other, she had developed a new hobby of training all sorts of idiots. But the lady said that under no circumstances, and she was just standing in the corridor, this count made so much noise that she had to teach him a little lesson. The lady remarked that the lady had taught him a good lesson, and then asked if this creature was her pet. Titania confirmed this and reported that she came to show it to her because she thought that Her Highness would definitely like it. The princess believed that she was going to give it to her as a gift, but the lady said that only if she liked it so much, she would be able to find and bring another one. Her Highness asked that she first release the count if he kicked the bucket in the palace. He would have to pay a huge compensation. People understood her and remarked that they wouldn't want to waste money on such a pathetic person. The princess decided to end today's meeting there. The man was further shocked and said that she had not yet made a decision on the reorganization of the military unit's budget, but the princess noted that he was going to challenge any of her decisions and that she would think about it until tomorrow. But now he was asking her to take this beauty and disappear. The princess turned to the lady and asked her if she would like to walk to her palace. Titania remarked that they had brought him here with pleasure. He would accompany her. It was such a stroke of luck. She didn't even know how often she had the opportunity to stroll with such a beautiful woman. The lady said that in that case they would go. This big guy asked to bring him some meat. Her little animal would be fed. And she also noted that the lady had been very busy lately. Titania couldn't understand what she could possibly be doing. The princess, however, said she had completely won over the tyrant house, and she was truly delighted. Because she didn't think the press would be interested, and the Lucifers were drawn to this adventure, Titania remarked that she was glad she'd managed to surprise her. but she asks to leave the praise for later, as she intends to shock Her Highness. The lady remarked that she was looking forward to it, couldn't wait. And by the way, it's already spring, and many flowers are blooming in the garden. So the princess noticed that this would make a great hair decoration. And after that, she'd put a flower on her head. Titania remarked that it was indeed very beautiful, and believed that her mistress was dressing her up like a doll. Well, she said it simply suited her very well, and from now on it would be called Titania. The lady remarked that it was such an honor, since the rose looked just like her. Up until this point, everything had been going well, but then the princess noticed that this seemed to be the wrong path. They walked even further from the palace. She couldn't quite understand why anyone would forget the way to their own home. The lady noted that judging by the greenhouses nearby, they didn't have far to go. It seems the princess brought it here by accident. Titania paused when she mentioned greenhouses. But what if she was talking about the greenhouses installed in the imperial garden? This is the territory of the #1 villain, Peridot Crisiona. She greeted the mistress, but she said it wasn't worth it. She told the princess that she had seen this rose on her way here, and had decided to call it Titania. The girl was shocked that this was not a joke, and she really named the rose that way. The princess noted that this was obviously the name of the young lady next to her. The princess had assumed they had not yet met. At tomorrow's meeting, they should report the change and put it on her desk. Peridot promised the mistress that everything would be done, and then she bowed to Ergi. Titania suggested that Princess Tioli's go and also inquire about the lady's connection with roses. Princess Peridot is the head of the Imperial Botanical Department, and she was able to issue the order quickly because she ran into her here. Perhaps that's the quickest way to make enemies. The #1 villain, the prince's youngest daughter, is Peridot Crisiona. She's not a fan of Lucifer, but she considers him the key to her happiness and is very self-assured. Titania believed that ordinary people could not enter the greenhouse, and the princess noted that permission must be obtained from the princess, since there were dangerous plants in the greenhouses. The girl was surprised and asked again. The princess confirmed this, and some of them are poisonous, so only a responsible person can grant permission. The novel often used poisonous needles, so you need to be careful. Luckily, Peridot showed them the way to the creator, and I had to wander further through the garden. The princess remarked that there was something she would like to know, and the girl was not at all against it, and was waiting for the question. The lady became curious about when her engagement with Lucifer would take place. This question confused the lady. The princess had heard herself called a bride many times, but never an engagement. The girl noted that this was indeed true. It seemed they had limited themselves to vows to each other, but if the ceremony didn't take place, unpleasant rumors would spread. Titania looked embarrassed, apparently pointing out a problem she'd already been thinking about. The princess hadn't spoken to Lucifer yet, so she decided to consult with her first. The girl became very curious about what she was talking about. The princess announced that she would lend them the garden for the ceremony, and then asked how she liked the idea. When Titania heard about this, she was in complete shock. The poor thing expected this from the princess. An engagement that will take place under the protection of the royal family. No one will be able to flirt with Lucifer anymore. Besides, she doesn't know exactly when the main character will appear, so it's better to leave it at that. Titania was very grateful to Her Highness, but it would be strange to make such a decision alone, so she asks permission to talk to Lucifer. The princess was surprised that she was speaking seriously, and remarked on how attentive she was. Looking at it that way, the atmosphere had become much calmer than before. The princess was about to leave, but the girl called her back. The woman turned and looked intently at her guest. Titania asked the lady if she would like to give her a gift on the occasion of their engagement. The princess said that she was going to present it when the time came for the ceremony, but for the first time in her life, she met a person who demanded a gift. Titania smiled and remarked that it was an honor for her. The princess wondered what she so desired. The girl said she needed a map for that. After that, the princess began to believe she wanted her to give her the lands. Titania confirmed this, and the princess noted that she was also the first lady who asked for land as a gift. Well, she'll take a look at the map. She doesn't have much good land, but maybe she'll catch something's eye. Titania decided to take a closer look. She needed barren land without an owner. The princess also asked why the land she wanted was Evershell. The princess became curious about what she was even planning to do with it, She has one interesting plan. She wants to build a park where all citizens could have a great time. The princess remarked that she was so ambitious, but she couldn't just give them away, and she didn't understand at all what to do. Since she is going to launch such a large-scale project, it needs to be reported to His Majesty. Although if she goes hunting with the princess, then so be it. She will give her these lands. The girl was surprised to hear about hunting. The mistress confirmed this. The lady began to say that she couldn't ride. This surprised her. But if she can't ride horses, she can try to ride her cat. Titania didn't think he would let her do it. But maybe... So she agreed. But in that case, she had one more request to make of the princess. The mistress decided to try to make the most of this visit. Since she had become a new puzzle for the princess, she asked him to stop tormenting Lucifer. Villain number 2, Princess Tioles tormented the Duke because she wanted to bring him to his knees. For his comfortable life, this problem must be resolved. The princess decided to ask what she said that made her so upset, and that it was really sad. Titania was simply sure that she was much more interesting than Lucifer, and then asked if the princess thought the same. Tioles noted that she is impudent and daring, but she still doesn't mind it. She was grateful for the generosity, and also noted that the princess would definitely get what she wanted, and now she was saying goodbye to her D. The princess became curious, because she could not possibly know if this was not from the imperial family, connected to Evershell. It was indeed a casual conversation. There was no hidden meaning in her pointing to these lands. Evershell is a land suddenly hit by drought, and the imperial family sent a research team there. They discovered something interesting. A previously unknown vibrating energy appeared in the depths of an ancient temple to the sun. A dilapidated tombstone was also found there. It said that man must master power and defeat evil and wait for the right person. However, no one could understand what this meant. And about 80 years ago, the temple was sealed. Now, the imperial family only knows the location of this temple since the ancient compass was lost, and the stupid ones cannot find it. The princess was sure that she could not find out about this, but it would be necessary to observe what this willful lady would do. Sometimes it is interesting to throw the dice, and so she'll have to go hunting with the Princess. Lucifer was shocked when he heard they were going hunting. It sounds harmless enough, but this isn't exactly a typical hunt. It's like a small secret club where all sorts of unpleasant things happen. Titania was shocked because she didn't know about this. Lucifer added that since she was going hunting, she should practice dancing. The lady didn't quite understand why, when she danced, a K-pop dance automatically played in her head, so she decided to ask why this was happening at all. After the hunt, the princess always held a reception. A huge fire is lit in the middle of the main courtyard. There is dancing and loud laughter. They are to go there together. Titania understood him, and in fact she doesn't know how to dance properly. Lucifer thought so too, but he's glad she told him about it in advance. Now he can help her too. It's a bit sudden, but the mansion has been pretty quiet these days, so she suggests he go outside and practice. The courtyard of the Duke's estate, Lucifer turned to the lady and asked if she would do him the honor of taking her hand. It was so unexpected, and she immediately agreed, and afterward, the gentleman thanked her, even though she had suggested the practice. In anticipation of this, she began to tremble, and her body grew hot. The master asked her where she was looking, because her gaze should be fixed on her partner. Avoiding eye contact during a dance is extremely disrespectful, and she shouldn't be thinking about anything else focusing on him. During the dance, they almost kissed. The gentleman thanked her. He expressed gratitude for all the moments that would not have happened without her. He expresses gratitude for the way she changed his life. Meeting her is his only blessing. There's still plenty of time left, so this is just the beginning. But the mistress always keeps her promises. Lucifer looked at her with confusion at first, but then agreed because everything would be even better. The gentleman almost kissed her. Afterward, he thought about it, and he managed to linger. But for some reason, his heart ached so much. I need to stop thinking about this because he doesn't even talk about Geisha's kitchen anymore. Every 2 days, he comes back and wanders around the area. Apparently, the fact that the area around the mansion has been clean lately is thanks to him. Lucifer would have been grateful if it hadn't concerned his wife. The servant remarked that his master seemed to be under a lot of stress. They hadn't had a drink with him for a long time, and while he was grateful, he hadn't noticed that he looked so happy since the lady had appeared. Lucifer looked surprised and asked again. Theo noticed he felt more comfortable and had been sleeping in this room for a long time. Previously, during the most difficult times, he changed his bedroom every 2 hours, so I think he was lucky. Lucifer remarked that she was like a salvation for him. Even if the relationship with her that Kuhn spoke of was true, he'll never be able to give her up anyway. Someone broke into their house, but he was killed immediately, and the master ordered him removed. Whatever the relationship between the two of them is, it doesn't matter if she can't remember it, so he won't take her away from him. Lucifer told her to be careful and not to get hurt. The lady was grateful for his concern. Although she walked out with a proud look, it's not all that simple. The hunt the day X. She's still going to hunt, and she's not sure if everything will be all right. She greeted the gentleman, and Lucifer remarked that the hunting outfit suited her very well. Titania noticed that everything suited the scoundrel. The master asked her to take something, but the lady didn't quite understand what it was. Lucifer told her that it was a special whistle used during special operations, so only experienced warriors would hear its sound. Of course he'll be there too, but it's better to be safe than sorry. The girl asked if this was part of being a knight, and she was shocked that she could just take her along. She'll hide it for a start, and she's grateful for the care Lucifer asked her to be careful, as someone will certainly try to harm her. Titania pointed out that she knew about it, so he shouldn't worry, because she'll keep an eye out. The princess greeted the lady. Titania was very happy to see her mistress. She seemed charmed. She remarked that she looked magnificent today. The princess, too, was not averse to it, and remarked that she too was glowing and hadn't seen this little creature for a long time. Kitty noticed he smelled something ominous. His mistress tried to calm him down so he wouldn't spoil the atmosphere. Apparently, he has an excellent sense of smell. The princess isn't surprised by the talking cat, and she hopes with all her heart that he really brought her here. Titania was very grateful for his lenient attitude toward his harsh words. Well, the princess thought all cats were like that. They weren't at all like dogs. The cat remarked that it looked like his nose was about to rot. The other servants were completely shocked because the cat could talk. Well, it does smell strange in here. The princess noticed that they had finally arrived. She asked her guest to greet them. These are the pigs they'll be hunting today. The girl was in complete shock when she realized they were hunting people. No matter how hard she looks, she sees ordinary people, but the princess would not hunt innocent people. Titania believed they were all criminals. The princess confirmed this and added that they were all guilty of the same crime. They committed violence. On the way to the hunting grounds, she met a group of women. They had nothing to do with hunting, and that surprised her, so they were just victims. The preparations were complete, so the princess began to prepare her guest. Titania was in full flight when she saw Lady Ziontina. The princess was surprised to hear she already knew her. The lady confirmed this. They had already met once. After these words, the princess remarked that this was simply wonderful. In that case, the lady knight will go with her. Adels was utterly horrified and tried to argue with her highness. Tioles asked menacingly if she had ever allowed anyone to contradict her. The knight immediately apologized and said that this would not happen again. It was just awful. She made Ziontina tuck her tail between her legs and whine, apparently in the princess's hands. Even a simple lace would become a golden chain. The rapists are at the starting line and are given a choice. From now on, they will be hunted in this forest. If they manage to get out of it, they will not die and may even gain freedom, and they will also be able to atone for their guilt. Only now, if they beg the victims for forgiveness and agree to bear the punishment they deserve, will they avoid their unfortunate fate. Since they committed such a crime, they must answer for it. Titania wanted them to apologize. They apologized and repented. When a man heard about asking for forgiveness, and he immediately shouted that she was bad because she thought that they would throw themselves at their feet. She'll regret letting them go. And then they started running. Titania didn't know how to react to this. It was simply disgusting. The princess asked if she saw this and remarked that, You bastards don't know how to think with my head. And besides, if they aren't killed, everything will happen again. That's why we need people like Tioles. Since they used force to harm others, they will repay them in kind. The hunt began, and the night girl looked strangely at Lady Titania, who thought that her highness was simply magnificent. If she knew that she was so cool, she would have read the novel to the end. The night girl asked her if she had said that her life was in danger. Princess Tioles would be very generous if she refused to come, because her life is already under threat. Then she would understand everything. But instead, she plunged into the very thick of it. That's why Ziontina doesn't understand anything at all. Titania was in complete shock and couldn't believe that she could be worried about her. Ziontina immediately blushed and started asking if she was talking about her. Then she started saying that she wasn't, because she was worried about the captain, and he would be worried about her. Now the lady understands what she means. It seems that this is not so, but she continued to try to correct the situation. Recently, the number of threats in her life has significantly decreased, and she is no longer so weak as to be a burden. There's the cat and the amulets she bought, and the knight saw it. Ziontina remarked that it was, of course, wonderful. Well, she mustn't forget to look around. In an instant, the knight cut down some branches for her so that the lady wouldn't get caught. Titania was in complete shock because she had done it for her. The knight was very embarrassed, but the lady said she understood everything. Suddenly, she heard strange sounds and asked what they were. Ziontina remarked that it seemed like one of them had been caught. The knight also noted that the lady would be better off not looking at this, but the lady was very interested, so she quickly headed in that direction and saw them right away. There she saw the princess who had shot one of the men in the leg. Nearby Her Highness were probably the victims of these scoundrels. The man asked her to spare him, and the princess noted that perhaps he himself had heard the word. These women also begged for mercy. The princess also asked if he remembered their desperate pleas, but he only laughed and said that this was mercy. So with a clever move she killed him. He shouted that she was a bastard and the spawn of the devil, and that her vile little head would go to hell. This is a trial that cannot be conducted legally. Titania understands this. The victim stood and cried, but the princess approached one of the girls and hugged her. They were all very grateful to the princess and began to cry even more because of this. Titania remarked that Her Highness was truly magnanimous. The knight remarked that this was natural, because the princess will become a beautiful empress and a brave warrior. Princess Tioles is simply gorgeous. No words are enough to describe her magnificence. It must be a great honor to serve such a man. The knight noted that it was indeed so. Of course, accompanying Her Highness is a great pride, and for the entire family at once. Titania remarked that since she had the right partner, everything was going well, which she was very happy about. The knight tried to stop her. The princess suggested they split up in a different way, then offered her guest a drink. She accepted. She wondered if there was anything she'd like to do. The girl asked if she was asking about her dreams or goals. The princess said she meant one of these things. She wants to live happily ever after. Until now, the lady had dreamed about this and worked hard on it little by little, and that meant she would definitely succeed. The princess remarked that she wondered if she was sure of that. If she wants to live long and happily, then she should secure the favor of those in power. And then she asked her if she was right. Titania immediately understood what she meant. She thought it would look rather strange, so she decided to give it up. She'd die of exhaustion. She'd rather spend the rest of her life somewhere in the provinces. The city doesn't suit her at all, although you wouldn't know it from looking at her, but she loves sheep farming. The princess noted that this was of course unusual, but she could breed sheep in the imperial palace, and in general do whatever she wanted here. Titania stood her ground, however, and said that her heart was more set on a spacious field than on a pompous palace. The princess hadn't expected this, and then she noted that it was all because she hadn't yet seen the pastures adjacent to the castle. They were large and wide, of course, and there was a sheepfold too. The girl didn't understand at all how she could get out of this, and didn't understand why the lady was behaving this way. In order to calmly meet old age, she would definitely have to get away from here as far as possible. "Damn tomorrow!" the night girl shouted that they had hired killers. Very timely. They shouted that they had come to kill the princess. There were 3 of them. The girl was surprised because they weren't in the book, so she doesn't understand at all where these guys came from. The princess noted that she didn't even find it funny, and she thought that they were jesters or robbers. Just 5 people. As silly as it sounded, it couldn't be just 5 people coming to kill the princess, so she ordered the cat to find the rest. The princess was shocked that he could get rid of all sorts of vermin, and now she wants it even more. Titania added that he had special training. One of the men shouted that her life would end today and rushed towards the princess, and the princess turned to the lady and asked her to simply stand behind her and not move. The mistress found a whip in her hands. Titania was shocked for such a tough woman, and also a dominatrix. She didn't understand at all how one could be so incredible. Her Highness is simply gorgeous. Meanwhile, an unknown man took aim at Titania. It all happened in a flash. Kitty dealt with the criminal himself. But by chance, the arrow flew out of the crossbow, but Lucifer caught it with his hand. And even though she almost died, Lucifer saved her, and his beauty took her breath away. The man was very glad he wasn't late. Titania noted that she hadn't even whistled, so she couldn't understand how he knew she'd need it. Lucifer noted that he had promised to be nearby, but at the last moment he heard suspicious sounds. To be honest, she wasn't careful enough, and thought they only wanted the princess, so she's grateful to Lucifer for saving her. The cat immediately ran to his mistress and asked if she was okay. The girl said he was a smart boy. Lucifer, meanwhile, was handing the arrow to the knight. When Ziantina looked at the arrow, she immediately approached the princess because she noticed a strange engraving on it. The count seemed to have sunk below the plinth. The girl asked if he was talking about Count Charles Bown. He was indeed. Now the girl understood and noted that this explained why they wanted to kill her too. The princess asked that Peridot be told that they would soon have new flower food, she would love it. Ziantina understood everything, but Titania didn't understand what kind of food, but all sorts of horrors immediately came to mind. The hunt was over, and afterward, a joyful feast awaited them. Well-roasted wild boar and cool beer, people dancing while crying and laughing, releasing all their pent-up emotions. But there's one problem. Lucifer asked her to be patient for a little while, because they were almost home. Titania was dirty, but Lucifer asked her not to worry, because he would order her to be cleaned. The girl did not understand at all why she was becoming less and less resilient in recent days. That's right. Little sister is a princess now. If she really doesn't care, it seems that way. These aren't just words. These are words she spoke while in a strange state. Titania said that it was comfortable to live now, but Lucifer didn't quite understand what she was talking about. Lucifer never thought, the girl added, that she never imagined it would so easily help her find the meaning of life. A woman is a firework, noisy, explosive, and vibrant, but at some point she will also vanish without a trace, dissolving into thin air. Lucifer would be a little calmer if he had the power that was taken from the descendants of the sun god 300 years ago, the so-called sight, granting the ability to see the future. But that wouldn't have made much difference. So Lucifer decided that he would make it so that it would make absolutely no difference. After the hunt was over, Count Baus, who had sent the assassin, was sentenced to exile on an uninhabited island. Of course, it was none of her business, so she ignored this information. Now, time to enjoy some shopping. The woman said there was nothing that wouldn't suit her, so she can't say what should be chosen and what should be left. She was very happy. The lady noted that the pearl had a faint luster. The woman immediately understood and remarked that this was to be expected as she had high standards. Unfortunately, all the high-quality pearls were bought by Princess Peridot Chrysiona, the #1 villain. However, she can't wear jewelry worse than hers. The quality of the stones on the other rings is better than Lady Peridot's. The saleswoman confirmed this. In that case, she decided to take them. The entire row from here to here. She buys everything, so they should send it to her house. Usually, aristocrats invite a jeweler to their home and buy jewelry without leaving their chambers. But she doesn't understand what pleasure there is in shopping then. People go to fine dining restaurants to enjoy food. Walking can also be considered a form of entertainment. It's so much fun. They were welcomed at Jianyi Jin. The lady remarked that the best fan makers were said to work there. They confirmed this because they're really proud of their fans. They're all beautiful, so these guys are rightly proud of their work. The gentleman informed her that she was taking everything and that they should send it to her house. While the maid was then discussing how they would pack it, the mistress noticed something in the window. She asked if the building across the street was for sale. The woman confirmed it was, and noted that they had decided to sell that house about 2 days ago. The owner went bankrupt, so it was going up for auction. The lady asked if she knew when the auction would take place. The woman noted that public auctions of land and real estate are usually held at the beginning of the month. In that case, it will probably happen tomorrow. The butler mentioned it earlier. Creating a luxury clothing brand for aristocrats may be the best way to make a lot of money. Well, she decided to give it a try and open her own boutique. There's one rule common among all young ladies from noble families. I'm not allowed to wear the same dress twice. Therefore, selling fashionable clothes is a very profitable business. The mistress asked the maid, like this one, that this place would soon become her store. The maid remarked that she thought it was very, very cool. The mistress was also delighted. This building stands directly opposite the main street and becomes visible as soon as the carriage turns the corner. And this is a pretty good location. It feels more special, and there are plenty of people passing through, so there's nothing to worry about. She decided to name the brand after herself. If she could persuade Madame to become a co-owner, the profits would be split 80-20. Titania, of course, will take 20. In the original story, she didn't have a good start, and it took a long time to become famous. But now she can instantly become famous. That's how she appeared here, and they will definitely fulfill their dreams and get rich. The maid called her mistress and pointed out that there was a small tea house next to the building. Titania was surprised. They decided to go in anyway. From the outside, the house looked very dilapidated, but inside it was brightly lit by the sun's rays. The girl also noted that it was quite cozy here. The tea room is not for sale. When she heard that voice, she realized it was the princess. When she turned around, she saw that it was indeed her. Peridot greeted her, villain number 1. It really was her. She had no idea what she was doing here. The woman kept saying she wouldn't sell it. Peridot insisted that in such a rundown place, debts were mounting like a snowball. So she couldn't understand why she was hanging on so tightly. No matter how stubborn she was, she wouldn't be able to refuse her offer anytime soon. The woman continued yelling at her and told her to just drink her tea and leave. No matter what she said, this woman would not sell this tea shop. The woman had no idea what was going on. Peridot pointed out that she should give in since she came herself and showed mercy, and she too cannot wait long. Titania thought she shouldn't behave like this. The maid was about to place her order, but her mistress wanted her to wait a bit. They're really driving this old lady crazy. These are the lands Peridot wants to get her hands on. The lady turned to her grandmother, asking what was going on. This woman wouldn't back down. Titania noted that she seemed to be being threatened, and she more than anyone wants to see the princess fall into a puddle. There's a saying, "My friend's enemy is my friend." The woman asked if she was a noblewoman, so she doesn't quite understand why she addresses her formally. For the first time, she sees someone who can stand up to the lady, and she's intrigued. Grandma was shocked and asked if it was true. Then she added that when she was young, you could even yell at aristocrats. Because she was a nanny under the tyrant, people from noble families could relax the strict rules of interaction with their closest servants. And here, the culture of respect for nannies is especially strong. That's why this granny treats aristocrats like this. Suddenly, the girl had a new idea. She asked if there was a reason she refused to sell the tea shop even in such difficult times. There's obviously some drama going on here. The woman asked if she was sure they were asking, because she herself couldn't figure out what the other reason was. The woman nevertheless agreed and said that at her age, people don't invite people on dates anymore. And here she will at least be able to look at pretty young boys. Titania giggled and started laughing, because she had a very compelling argument. They keep saying, "Sell it, sell it." Granny had a point. Everything is much more interesting than she thought, and now she likes it even more. Well, if we leave it as is, Grandma and her tea house will become Peridot's prey. We need to take matters into our own hands. Titania told her to sell the tea shop to her, and she would pay off the debts. Grandmother thought she was crazy, and asked if she had conspired with that woman about us. This is a completely expected reaction from a grandmother, but Titania had a great idea. Titania came home and asked the butler if he wanted to go on a date. Theo told the lady to place this rose in the bedroom. It would serve as a wonderful interior decoration. It's a thornless variety. The lady was very grateful, but she was seriously asking if he wanted to go on a date. The man laughed and asked her what dates were, since he was too old. All he can do is trim the bushes. It's so hard she wanted to win Grandma over. I'll set her up on a blind date. But if he didn't agree, her plan would fail. Titania thought she had it all figured out. After all, Theo was a true gentleman. The lady decided that she would try Kama again, and if it didn't work, she would come up with something else. Titania informed the butler that there was a grandmother she wanted to introduce to him. She worked as a nanny for aristocrats. Her name is Tabby. She runs a tea shop. The man was completely shocked and asked the lady if she had just said Tabby. Titania was surprised and confirmed it, and then she began to believe they already knew each other. The butler said they had known each other for quite some time. So maybe he really should go, after all he accepted her offer. In that case, I won't go together tomorrow. One villain wants to take away the tea shop from this woman, so we need to act quickly. The butler didn't mind at all. Her intentions weren't entirely pure, but since everything had worked out so well, she could breathe a sigh of relief. The maid provided her mistress with her new bonnet. Titania was very grateful, but Lucifer remarked that it suited her very well. The lady was very happy to see him, and then she started running towards him and immediately jumped into his arms. She was very happy and said that she missed him. The lady noticed that Lucifer became embarrassed and began to think that she had done too much. They hadn't seen each other for a long time, so she blurted it out stupidly. The mistress said that they should go to the butler. Lucifer was surprised and asked again, and Titania told him that she wanted to introduce him to a wonderful grandmother. 40 years ago, Theo worked as a gardener for a noble family, and Tibai was their nanny. But the family went bankrupt, and all the servants fled. After that, their connection was broken. It's surprising that they will meet again like this. The woman asked Theo if he thought it all seemed incredibly exciting. It certainly did. Titania noted that it happens, and she also wonders what Lucifer would do if after 40 years he met the person he once loved. The gentleman remarked that he didn't even know the girl was shocked because he answered so dryly and called him so boring. So Lucifer said that perhaps the long-forgotten feelings would not flare up again, but he would be very glad. People are not eternal. She may not even notice how over the years, everyone who reminded her of the old days will disappear. And Lucifer noted that it was common to rejoice when you meet someone close. Such a pure, low, and soft voice. No matter how much she listened, it was never enough. After this, the lady noted that he was right, and added that it didn't matter what feelings connected them. It was probably just nice to see each other again. The butler entered the tea room, and when the woman saw him, she was in complete shock. The gentleman asked her if it was her. Tabby smiled and asked if he was dead shocked to find he was still alive. Theo remarked that it was too early for him to die, and they continued to chat very pleasantly. Perhaps in the distant future, they and Lucifer will be like this too. Her ringing laughter is still as lively and sonorous, and she herself stands right next to him. Lucifer doesn't understand at all why he wants to touch her so much. Titania turned to her husband and remarked that everything seemed to be going well between the two of them, so they could quietly leave. There was one place she'd like to sit with him. The gentleman couldn't understand why his heart was pounding so hard. So the lady is planning to open her own shop next to the tea shop. A suitable building has been put up for auction, and it's today Lucifer mentioned that he could help her with the purchase if needed. But Titania said that it was not necessary because she would buy it with her own money, since they were only pretending to be a couple. This house, although old, is extremely conveniently located. The lady's lot was up for auction. Titania decided to start with 300 million. 300 million, 3,000. Lucifer would have been relieved to see her draw a clear line between them. A man started offering a higher amount than the lady, so she raised the bid again. But the man didn't let up and continued to raise the bid. The bid rose to 900 million, 9,000 gaudas. It was very interesting to see who would bid the most. Lucifer asked her if she was sure it was worth spending such a huge amount of money on it, considering it was just an old building. The lady said that everything was fine. These investments were accumulating more than twice as much, and he himself would soon be sure of this, because she'll turn this dilapidated house into a gem. When he looks at that beaming smile, he longs to see her all the time. And that's why he said he can't wait. Lucifer remarked that he thought she should rest, as they would still have plenty of time to conduct an inspection. But the girl wanted to look at the building as a souvenir before they started rebuilding it. She didn't know she would be so tired. She's been lacking stamina lately. Lucifer suggested that in that case she should lie down for a bit. Titania said there was no pillow, and she couldn't lie there without one. Lucifer was silent for a moment, and then said he would lend her his lap, and she could lie down however she liked. The lady asked if he really didn't mind, and he confirmed it. After that, she decided to lie down comfortably. She had no idea what was going on at all. Maybe he suggested it because he was angry with her grumbling, so she decided to shut up and lie down or something like that. Titania looked at Lucifer and immediately became embarrassed, but he realized that she should not forget herself, because this man belongs to another. He must be acting this way because he treats her like a little sister. He is a caring person by nature, and she simply misunderstood everything. So she decided to close her eyes and not think about it. The woman was so angry, she simply couldn't stand it. She appeared out of nowhere and couldn't understand how she dared to ruin her mistress's plans. She tried to buy the house, but this bitch suddenly raised the bid by 200 million, and the prepared means were not enough, so she asks the lady for forgiveness. Peridot pointed out that she couldn't let her get away with this. She would continue to get in her way. The woman said that her mistress was right, and that this woman boasted of her wealth so disgustingly that her ears almost rotted. It was so disgusting. The lady remarked that she had done her best, so she offered her a cup of tea. But the woman was acting strangely. The mistress didn't understand at all what was going on and thought she didn't want to. Usually after this, many services disappear, so she hopes that this will not happen, so she still decided to drink tea. As soon as she took a sip, she immediately began to die. The lady couldn't believe it, because she was talking about the next task, even though she hadn't even completed this one. Titania Oberon. She couldn't understand how she could give up what she so terribly desired. Finally, they arrived on her land. The lady was shocked, as she hadn't expected it to be so empty. Lucifer noted that she had said that she was going to build something called an amusement park here, but for some reason in Evershell. Titania was surprised it was so simple. Lucifer remarked that it would have been easier to tell him she needed land for construction. He began to draw a map, Evershell, where Ruat Haas and Aval were visiting. He was the master of all these lands. For convenience, he introduces himself as Duke Schweiden, but his full title is Lucifer de Schweiden, Duke of Schweiden, as well as Lord of Ruth Haas and Aval. He is also the ruler of Macarton. Titania decided to inquire where it was. Macarton is a coastal city in the south. It's commonly known as the gambling town. He's like the ruler of Macau or the mayor of Las Vegas. He's a major player beyond imagination. The lady couldn't understand how such riches could possibly come from Lucifer, pointed out that money doesn't fall from the sky. Titania was surprised that they weren't coming from Macarton's casino 24/7. Lucifer pointed out that this wasn't always the case. The lady is truly jealous of him. When Lucifer said he'd buy her the building, he thought she'd simply accept it as if it were his due. Lucifer said that when she became his wife, he would give her the rights to manage the gambling houses so she could try to do this. He's not particularly interested, so he just lets it slide. He's been watching her, and he thinks she'd be much better at managing Macarton's playgrounds. She might even be able to take this business to the next level. And then I asked her what she thought. The lady's eyes lit up, and she asked with a smile if he promised she was simply delighted. She informed him that it would be part of his wedding gift. Titania was surprised when he mentioned a wedding gift, as she hadn't expected that to be the case. Why didn't she grab his hand? Lucifer told her not to consider it a burden, because he was doing it because he wanted to. And then the gentleman asked if it would be better for him to present it as an engagement gift. If she wanted to get the casino early, then he could do so. If anyone deserves to be the main character, it's him. This is simply incredible generosity. And then Titania realized that she also had to give something, so she said that first she would sketch something out. The gentleman said that if she needed an easel, she should just let him know and he would bring it right away. She would have to think about it later. Titania was very grateful to him. This brought a smile to his face. He is handsome, gentle, and caring, just what you'd expect from the protagonist. His beloved will be lucky. Titania saw him from a different side and now envies the main character, whose face she has never even seen. It was a hard day, but for some reason I couldn't sleep a wink. Since she couldn't sleep, she decided to go for a walk. She started thinking about an engagement gift. She probably needs to get something too. It wouldn't be nice to leave him without a return present. Clothes, a coat, shoes, or even some jewelry. Whatever she gave him, it certainly wouldn't compare to his gift. The best option is a sword, but Lucifer already said he has a suitable one. He even has a catchy name, Apollonius. It's certainly great when the groom is rich, but it makes choosing a gift very difficult. It would be possible to do something with your own hands, but the problem is that she is terribly clumsy. On the way, she accidentally encountered Lucifer. She was very surprised when she saw him and asked if he was still awake. He confirmed this and noted that she was not sleeping at all, and he was also curious why she was not sleeping. Basically, for the same reason, her heart is beating so hard it's just scary. Titania didn't understand at all why he was looking at her like that, so she decided to ask. The lady believed it was because she was very beautiful. Lucifer confirmed this. He said she was truly beautiful. These words greatly embarrassed the lady, and she tried to control herself because it was true. Previously, when he just wanted to take a walk in such a place, the magicians would shower him with gifts. Each time he had to refuse them and look for the ladies who sent them in order to return everything. Apparently, among such gifts, there were some that were opened so he could not accept them. But after she appeared in his life, all this stopped. She is his salvation. But Titania believed that it was definitely he who saved her. But the master denied it because she had saved him. If it had happened earlier, he should have received an agreement. But recently, she stole something from him, and he has no intention of taking it back. After these words, the gentleman kissed her forehead. The girl blushed deeply after this and didn't even know what to say. She turned away and started to leave. The gentleman tried to stop her, but it didn't work. Lucifer would like to make it so that she cannot escape. Fortunately, Grandma Tebby agreed to sell her the building. The lady said she would demolish it and build a 3-story one in its place. Grandma said she should make a tea room on the ground floor, and she would be its owner. And thanks to the palace magicians sent by Her Highness, the work went quickly. She also recently managed to secure permission from the emperor to build an amusement park. Everything went off without a hitch. They decided to allocate the 3rd floor to the madame and staff, and the 2nd will be used as an office. There must be... It's just a shame if she thinks about it for even a second. She'll definitely remember that incident that happened this evening. She was in a state of internal panic. As she recalled that kiss, Grandmother couldn't understand why she was so upset about a man. The lady couldn't understand how she'd figured it out. Tebby noticed that it was written all over her face. These words embarrassed Titania. She blushed and wanted to say something, but her grandmother said that he was a man, and she could just take advantage of him and leave him. But Lucifer is sincere and kind, and she doesn't think he deserves this kind of treatment, but she doesn't understand at all why he kissed her. Theory A. Her forehead is so beautiful that he simply couldn't resist. Well, he kinda thought that it was an objectively beautiful forehead, so he wanted to kiss it. Theory B. I wanted to see how she would react, so I decided to kiss her on the forehead. Well, she thought it was some kind of nonsense, because Lucifer wouldn't do that. He's not that fickle. Grandmother didn't quite understand why Titania was so worried. A young lady like her could charm any man. He likes Titania's theory, but it doesn't make sense. Absolutely. There are men who can't cross the line. The novel she found herself in is The Wedding of the Main Character, with the descendant of the sun god. If there is a gripping story about fateful love, the description of the relationship between the main characters is 100 times greater than the description of the beautiful villain number 4. Even if she gives him her heart, then everything is predetermined. The grandmother noted that if a girl becomes so weak, she will not be able to manipulate a man. Therefore, if she came here to worry, then she should leave here, go outside and look at the sun, admire the handsome men. Titania even smiled at her grandmother's behavior. The decision to talk about her worries didn't bring much relief, because my grandmother doesn't understand why she should worry about men. It's still a bit awkward, but Lady Titania doesn't think she'll come. According to etiquette, it's best to send an invitation the day of the brand launch party has finally arrived. The food inspection is complete. The decorations have been checked naturally, and everything is top-notch. Everything was just perfect. The woman really hoped that everything would go well. Titania assured her that everything would be just fine, and she shouldn't worry about it. The princess approached the lady along with her knight. Titania was very, very happy to see them. The princess remarked that it seemed like not much time had passed since she arrived in the capital, and she was already launching her own clothing line. She was simply delighted. Titania noted that this was all thanks to the help of the princess, and also asked her to see if there were any outfits that she would like, because she wants to give them to her and Lady Ziantina. The princess thought about it, and then she said that she liked her more and more, because she has a charm that Peridot doesn't. The popularity of the clothing brand worn by the princess herself is sure to increase. Princess Tioles is incredibly generous after all. Even though I know she's being used, she happily allows it. Titania noticed the lady and knight looking at the costume, so she walked up to her and asked her how she liked the outfit. Ziantina noticed that it was not bad, so the lady said that she would give it to her as a gift so that she could take it and not be shy. If such a wonderful knight as Lady Ziontina wears this chic outfit, the owner will be very pleased. The lady noted that she was flattering her, so she need not try, because there was no point in it. It seemed so. Titania asked her what she was saying, but remarked that it was the absolute truth. The lady asked her to look at these arms, and it must have been difficult to pump up such strong muscles. But Ziontina noted that this is not the case at all, because if you train a lot, then anyone will have such problems, and the mistress is too close. She's holding a cut, saying it suits her perfectly, so she asks her to try it on. The knight was shocked that she could judge it just by looking at it. This is indeed true, since it's her personal clothing line. The princess remarked that they get along so well that she's even jealous. Titania asked the lady if she wanted her to pick something up for her too. In this case, she'll wear the outfit she chose right here. The princess can serve as a free advertising banner. The princess went to change. It was very good as expected. A large crowd had gathered. But it seems that none of the visitors dare to speak to her. There's nothing to be done about it. Once she's here, she basically makes enemies for herself. Suddenly, Lady approached Titania and asked if she remembered them, but the lady wasn't quite sure who it was. Recently at the fan shop, the girls were looking at a fan, but they were too expensive, so they couldn't afford it. It was an impulsive act. The lady informed the manager that she would buy 2 more fans and asked him to give them to the 2 young ladies. Titania gave Vera a secret to unknown girls, so she pretended that she remembered everything and did not understand how she could forget. She was the only one in the store that day, so people tried talking to her and were glad they were right. And the woman wanted to thank her properly. Titania remarked that it was so lovely. She was curious to see how they would behave, but they did not catch or hide. The lady remarked that thanks to her, she had received what she could only dream of, and the other lady also thanked her. They congratulated her on the launch of the brand, and now it was time for them to go. But Mistress Titania asked them to wait. She decided to ask them what their names were, and perhaps they could become friends. Titania wondered whether they would tell her or not. She had no real friends in her past life. It wasn't that she didn't want to. However, approaching with some intention was often the only way to talk to someone. Besides, she never had enough money, so even going to the cinema or a cafe with someone was a luxury. So she's not sure if she'll be able to make friends. Now the girls' names were Regina Delac and Cynthia Walson. Titania was very happy, and it was very nice to meet her. Her name is Titania Oberon. She knows little about the capital, but she has 2 friends. For some reason, she's already begun to like them. Lucifer showed up so she could go to the party, and couldn't understand why he didn't know about it. The butler noted that she apparently didn't want to talk about it. Theobald was devoted to the lady. However, she left an invitation. Lucifer remarked that this meant he definitely had to come. The butler remarked that he thought so too. He needed to dress up, and the servant said he had already prepared everything. The master asked how things were going with the Lacurmes. Although it would look strange if he went, His Majesty said it would serve as a diversion. Lacurme. Every 3 years, all the desert tribes hold a traditional martial arts festival. Kata is a brutal competition where participants die one after another. On this day, all the desert clans gather in one place so that neighboring countries could not help but pay attention to this. If Lucifer goes, he will be worried, but the servant said that everything will be fine with his wife. But the Duke said he didn't understand, because Lucifer was worried about himself when he would be without her. When he inquired if the person he wanted to meet had arrived, the servant informed him that she was waiting in the hall. Lucifer was surprised that he didn't invite her into the guest room. She's just so stubborn. Lucifer apologized for keeping her waiting. Her name is Tabby. Lucifer apologized for having to trust her with such a difficult task. Tabby may be old, but she's still got a knack for cooking. Theobina Muo, possessor of a phenomenal memory. Tibion and Theobald. In their youth, they worked undercover, while Theobald Leuven was called Leuven of Information. Theobina Muo was called Bion of Memory. Fire in hand, they separated after some incident, but by an incredible coincidence, Titania reunited them. As Lucifer had said earlier, he had only one request of her. It concerns the drawing mages. They must find out everything about the drawing mages. Tabby told the gentleman that he need not worry, because she would do everything in the best possible way. Much about the drawing magicians is shrouded in mystery, but together, they'll surely be able to find something. Maybe they can figure out why Titania turns cold when she uses magic. Lucifer is late, so it's time to go to the party. The girls have left. They have a curfew at their house. The princess approached Titania and announced that it was her turn. Then she asked if Lucifer would be coming. The princess had already finished changing. Titania remarked that it suited her very well, but the mistress told her not to change the subject. But the girl believed she wasn't changing the subject. He just didn't want to talk about it with her. In fact, she also didn't know whether he would come or not. The lady remarked that he might not come, as she didn't want to insist. He had been pursued by countless lunatics up until now. So if he showed up here, he would have a hard time. And in fact, she's even glad that he's not here. Titania is still uneasy. Tomorrow she and the princess heard screams and turned away. The girl screamed that the man was like a broken bracelet. She believed it was the president of the Lucifer fan club, Maisie Amantine. Her interlocutor noted that she didn't know something. In war, all means are fair. Maisie, horrified, asked if she understood how difficult it was for him. Her interlocutor asked if she really did look like an idiot. She's not doing this out of love, and of course she can't pressure him. She can't, but no one will know she's buying and collecting his hair. Maisie had no idea what it was and said it was terribly inappropriate. The girl said she was simply jealous and it would be better to be honest about it. And then she asked if she knew what she'd recently managed to get her hands on. Maisie said she wasn't at all interested in what she'd gotten her hands on. The girl blushed and said she had gotten the very thing. She took out the towel he had used to wipe away the sweat. This is a very rare treasure, obtainable only by having connections within the knightly order. If she had been as shy as she was, she would have achieved nothing. Titania remarked that it was a pitiful sight, but so be it, she would intervene. Titania turned to Lady Maisie and asked her what she was doing there. The girl was very frightened, because before her stood Lady Titania Oberon. The lady wasn't quite sure what was wrong with her face, but then asked if she hadn't expected to see her at her own celebration. Or maybe she shouldn't hear this conversation. Maisie was trying to somehow get out of the situation, and the purple-haired girl was about to lose her mind. She began to say that she was the very thief, the thief who stole the Duke's heart. A mysterious fairy appeared in the capital. She cut out and saved all the newspaper articles about her and Lucifer. She was very curious about her personality, and that's how they met. Titania decided to ask her name. It was Nanya Zerpenter. She didn't recognize that name. Titania wasn't familiar with this name. The woman continued to say that she was Nanya. The woman said that she said her name like that and begged her to do it again, so tenderly and sweetly. The lady asked the girl if she liked her. Nanya said she fell in love at first sight. That lush outfit suited her so well. She asked us how she combines black and red so well, and she also has such perfect jewelry. Everything is so perfect that it took our breath away. She's like an angel descended from heaven. Her name suits her so well, and she thought she'd gotten used to her beauty, but she's 100 times more beautiful than she could have imagined. Her voice is sweet as honey. It's like a magical spring right next to her ears, from which she longs to drink. She truly is an unusually passionate person. Oblivious to everything else, she concentrates on one thing or another. Honestly, the mistress can't say she hates such people, but there are certain lines that shouldn't be crossed. So she asked the girl what towel she had just spoken of. Nanya said that since she was his lover, she wanted to return it. This towel was very expensive, but if she really needed it, she could give it away. She usually didn't refuse such treasures. Nanya collects a towel by his hair, so the lady asked her if she thinks Lucifer will like it if he finds out about it. He would hate her. The girl confirmed that this was true, but she never wished him harm. She simply admires him from the bottom of her heart. I often see so many noblewomen holding their breath and staring at one spot. The mistress noted that Lucifer hadn't asked for admiration. The lady also asked if he allowed her to buy and collect things that belonged to him and so on. Nanya said it wasn't true, but she did it. Tormenting others out of pure heart, even if she thinks she's not harming them, is deeply mistaken. Because it can't be done. Nanya tried to justify herself somehow, but this is violence. Titania would like to make this known here and now, if anyone were to send assassins after her or harass Lucifer. Her kitten came up to her in an instant, and she hoped that he was explaining things clearly. It might have been a bit much, but considering all the pain Lucifer had gone through, she did the right thing. Titania turned to him and said that she too should get rid of her entire collection as soon as possible. Nania, in turn, was simply delighted and did not understand how she could speak so beautifully. For the first time in her life, she felt such a strong urge to lick someone. It was so blunt, all the extraneous stuff down the drain, she didn't understand a thing. Yes, even the lady's throat was dry. At least Nina, like Princess Tioles, had turned her attention to her. Nania turned to the lady and asked if she could take the glass from which she had been drinking. Titania had no idea what to do with this girl. She barely escaped. In fact, she doesn't tolerate alcohol well, and the champagne fell out because she wanted to drink, but she didn't think she would get so drunk. Titania also doesn't tolerate alcohol. She didn't know this because she rarely drank here. She thought she'd feel better if she got some fresh air. But for some reason, it seems to her that she is losing the ability to think coherently. The girl immediately recognized that voice. It was Keisha, but she couldn't understand where it came from. It's so hard she can't drink champagne anymore. She was poisoned. Titania was in complete shock and didn't understand what was happening. Suddenly, she fell to the floor. Her body was not obeying her, and she believed that she was dying. Kaisha told her that it was better not to move, otherwise the poison would spread faster. Did he really poison her? This is just a disaster. The kitten is still inside. Well, the man said it wasn't him. He just saw someone put poison in her glass. The lady was in shock, as was you, that he simply stood there and watched. This poison isn't lethal, and it's probably just a paralytic. Soon she won't even be able to scream. Her tongue was almost numb, and she could hardly say that she understood him. And after that, she asked if he could tell her who poisoned her. But the man said that he did not want to say it. If he does this, then she will run away from him again and go to that blonde bastard, and he cannot allow this. The lady noticed that his face was very sad, and that his chest was aching. She was worried. Titania noted that nothing could be done, and she did not remember at all who he was. Kaisha noted that this was indeed the case, and he would wait until she was completely numb. Then her abilities would also be sealed, making her easier to carry. Unlike Lucifer, he's as cold as paper. He turned to Shay and told her she was his own, so he was inviting her back to their paradise. This must be done. I'm not too late, but the Lord thought it was dangerous. Perhaps she'll remember everything if she goes with him. Titania couldn't lift a finger. If this continued, he would kidnap her. Suddenly, Lucifer appeared out of nowhere and said that wouldn't happen. The lady feels his warmth even from the touch of her hand, and it's so calming. Titania tried to explain something to him, but Lucifer said he knew everything. And then he said everything was fine. He drove away her fear. Kaisha remarked that it was funny to see the woman he thought was the love of his life find solace in the arms of another man. Lucifer turned to Kun Kaisha and told him that he would not forget what he had done to him in battle. He asked if he was his twin brother, or if he was living under his brother's name. The Kun Kaisha he knew was different. He would never allow his beloved to be harmed. If he really is who he claims to be, then he and Shay should have the same satellite mark. After these words, Lucifer asked where his mark was. The man asked if it was that important. After all, he has no idea about the feelings that are tearing his heart apart. Lucifer didn't understand what kind of utter nonsense this was, since the marks are applied by the Lacurum itself, and in the deserted time, everyone knows about them. So he won't understand who he is to her at all. The man said that he hadn't managed to take her with him this time either, but he would never give up. He promised to wait, and promised that you would wait as long as it took, and she should remember this. Titania started screaming at him to wait, because he was a curse. She didn't understand what that was. He disappeared, as suddenly as he had appeared. A successful party to celebrate the opening of her studio ended with the princess having heard about her condition from Lucifer, deciding to finish it herself. Luckily, the champagne the guests sang did not contain tranquilizers, and the rumor that she had fallen into poisoned champagne did not spread. And Lucifer also said that he thought that they should get married sooner. Titania was in complete shock and did not understand why it happened so quickly and what would happen to their engagement. The engagement ceremony will take place right in the palace, but it is better not to delay the wedding. As soon as she enters the Schweiden family, the threat to her life will significantly decrease, but she couldn't even imagine that this would happen. She thought she had taken sufficient care of her safety. Titania can't imagine what else they'll do. Lucifer turned to her and asked her to eat overprotective mode activated. If they wanted to kill her, they could have added poison to the glass, but she doesn't quite understand why there's a myoclastant there. Lucifer pointed out that it was possible, because in that case, no one would have considered the possibility of murder. If she had tripped and fallen, it would have been considered an unfortunate accident. Titania noted that open trade in such substances is prohibited in Tirana. Such goods are sold in alleys. Considering that no measures have been taken to stop this one, can conclude that this business is being covered up by someone in power. The girl was shocked, as was you, that she and the princess hadn't even figured him out yet. If they'd wanted to find him, they would have. But until recent events, that hadn't been a top priority. Lucifer continued to feed her, which embarrassed her greatly, so she decided not to refuse and eat the last spoonful. There is still bread here, but the lady said that she had already eaten her fill and did not want any more. Titania repeated once again that she had already said that everything was fine, and the paralysis had passed, and she was feeling great. Even if she took the antidote, a small amount of the paralytic could remain in her body, and this is not at all safe. The lady remarked that the Duke fussed over her like a hen over an egg. The butler remarked that perhaps she was right. She was so confident that everything was under control that she let her guard down. The servant knocked on the door and asked the lady if he could go out. And when he opened the door, the lady was in complete shock. A servant stood at the threshold next to him, was a huge pile of flowers, and a multitude of gifts. She had no idea where all this had come from. The man announced it was a gift from Her Highness Titania. Immediately realized it was from Princess Tioles. She sent Titania roses for Titania. In the letter, she wrote that these roses would bring peace to her heart, and that she had prepared a wedding dress for her so she should come to her palace as soon as she felt better. She seemed to have an idea who poisoned her. Lucifer asked if she was certain of this, and the lady remarked that she was certain. She even knows why they slipped it to her. Someone decided to take revenge for her taking his toy away from him. So it turns out this is Princess Peridot of Chrysion. It would be beneficial for the princess to maintain friendly relations with both of them. Their rivalry will only play into her hands, as she will thoroughly strengthen her position as a leader. And all the competition will be eliminated on its own. That's why she sent her this postcard. Her Highness writes that she knows who added the muscle relaxant, but will not punish her. And at the very end, he advises her to be patient. But the lady is not satisfied with this. She likes the princess, but she defends her day since the incident was not made public. She will not be angry, but she cannot just sit idly by either. Lucifer understood her and noted that Princess Chrysiona was difficult to catch since she was under the protection of the imperial family. But he'll try to find a way. Titania was shocked by the lengths he was willing to go to, even with the princess herself covering for her. He's willing to do this even though he doesn't want to get involved with her. The lady was touched. And then Lucifer mentioned that he also had a gift for her. The lady was very surprised and asked if she could open it. Lucifer didn't mind, and when she opened it, she saw that there was a fountain pen inside. Made in the Imperial Ministry of Magic, this pen never runs out of ink and can be used to draw on any surface. On marble wood or even stone. Titania was absolutely delighted. It was such a wonderful gift. Lucifer noted that she once said that she had a hard time in the desert because she had no pen or paper. Titania was shocked that he remembered this. Lucifer couldn't understand how it could be any other way, since it was all connected to her. Even though it's wrong, her heart is fluttering and she can't do anything about it. The princess was greeting the Princess Peridot, remarked that it had been a while since they'd had tea together. She was very busy with government affairs, and then asked how her research was progressing. Unfortunately, experiments with planting plants in sand failed, so she is thinking of going in a different direction. She's glad there's still time before the La Kurma. The princess informed her that, in fact, there are results, but it doesn't matter. The princess said she would see if she could help, but she made no guarantees. After these words, the lady asked the guest to sit down. Only someone who is not her doll may meet alone with the princess, a man she's truly interested in. God himself knows how many years she's spent trying to attract the princess's attention, and she doesn't know how it happened that some girl who appeared literally out of nowhere is twisting her around her finger. Tioles decided to ask what she wanted to say, that even demanded a personal meeting. The princess was ready to listen to her, so the princess immediately asked what should be done if a wild cat appeared in the chicken coop. Tioles pointed out that we needed to catch her before we had all the chickens. Peridot thought so too, and then asked what if this window had an owner? Who would be upset if something happened to her? As she herself knows, Titania really likes Lucifer. It's perfectly normal for a person to be fascinated by something new, and she's not sure he'll be happy if they take away the toy that brings him so much joy. Peridot decided that she would never give up, even though this situation had taken a rather unexpected turn. She still hoped for her cooperation. This young lady is a real headache. If I don't get rid of her now, it will be even more difficult later. The princess asked if the princess had forgotten the service she had rendered the imperial family. Of course, the princess remembers everything. If it weren't for Cutie, the entire palace would be littered with the corpses of her political enemies. Besides, she only listens to Peridoti. In exchange for giving up her noble status and entering her service, she promised her a reward, a power that would allow her to add the ducal surname of Schweden to her name. And she simply wanted her to be kind and fulfill this wish Tiolis didn't understand at all. How could she refuse her? But she thought that it wasn't that important, because she didn't have any feelings for Lucifer. Peridot didn't understand at all what it meant that it wasn't that important, because she had done so much to make the princess happy. The Chryssion family will be Her Highness's greatest supporter, and they and their brother will be the princess's loyal supporters. Therefore, the princess should think about this, because if she married the duke, she would be able to do much more for her. Otherwise, he can no longer count on their help. The princess remained sternly silent. After these words, the princess thought she had overdone it, but the princess remarked that she agreed to it. Whatever she did, the princess wouldn't stop her. The princess was simply delighted. Her blackmail had worked. But the princess noted that she should know that she really loves to have fun. If Titania leaves Lucifer of her own free will, but for some reason, the atmosphere has changed dramatically. The princess announced that she would personally conduct their wedding. Then she asked her how she felt about the idea. Peridot got what she wanted, so she thanked her mistress profusely. Now it's best to get out of here quickly. She was about to leave, but the princess noticed that she had misunderstood something, so she asked permission to explain it to her. The princess needs the meager support of her family. She is the crown princess, and very soon she will become empress. The way she begged today seemed quite funny to her, but nothing more. But if she decides to threaten her again, at the same time, if you think that she can twist the princess around as she pleases, then she will destroy her entire lousy family. No one is irreplaceable, and she should keep this in mind, and she should hold on to her place more tightly. Peridot clutched her throat, but bowed nonetheless, and said that she served the future empress, and she would remember that. They say this bitch earned 1,000 gold coins at the party in honor of the opening of her brand. The maid confirmed this and told her that she pretended to come to buy a dress and asked about it, but she was not told the details, however it seemed that way. Peridot almost bought the building, but she took it over and made a fortune on it. What a pity if she hadn't been so run down and desperate, she could have opened her own cosmetics store. Peridot insisted the maid was right. And then she remembered the princess's words about not stopping her, no matter what she did. If Titania leaves Lucifer of her own free will, she will personally conduct their wedding. Somehow this is all becoming uninteresting. If she doesn't get the duke, then no one else will, and she'll simply kill him. These are soaps and creams for the Knights of the Order, and these are for their captain. The maid is to deliver them to a squire named Thomas of the Order of Rentis. Titania fell asleep while drawing, but she didn't quite understand why she was in the princess's palace. Tioles came in and remarked that she was finally awake. Now they could have a serious talk about their upcoming engagement. It's not as scary as it might seem. While the wedding ceremony must be conducted according to all the rules, the engagement is informal. All you need to do is dress up and have a great time. Titania was shocked, having never heard of this. She asked her to choose something to her taste. The lady started choosing and noted that it was spring now, and the weather was nice, and she didn't want to spend the holiday indoors. Tioles agreed with her and noted that in that case, the plans to decorate the hall would also be thrown into the fire. Titania wasn't quite sure why Lady Ziontina was standing alone in the corner. After these words, the princess turned to her and asked if she would like to join them. And then she asked what would be more appropriate, roses or wildflowers, or maybe lilies. Ziontina remarked that she couldn't understand any of it. But the princess told her not to say that, because their dear Titania was getting married soon, and they all needed to sit down together and discuss everything. Titania thought she'd switched from Lucifer to Ziontina Lily, like the lady. Tioles was surprised, but found it interesting. She thought she preferred brightly colored flowers, but Titania suggested it would be better to save them for the wedding. The princess wasn't at all opposed, adding that she'd even prepared a dress for her, so she was asking her to try it on. When she got dressed, Tioles was simply shocked and remarked that the dress suited her very well. The princess had it made at the atelier she opened, and it looked wonderful on her. Titania was grateful and imagined Madame's delight. However, she thinks the heels are too high for these shoes, but the princess noted that Lucifer's adolescence had adjusted them. Well, it seems she's right, and they overdid it a bit, but she still asks her to try walking. Titania remarked that she didn't mind. She understood that if she tried hard enough, she might even be able to walk. But suddenly, she twisted her ankle and began to fall. The princess and the knight were in complete shock, but Tioles managed to grab her, and Ziantina held her legs. The princess asked if everything was okay, as she looked strange, but the lady said everything was fine. Absolutely amazing, Ziantina caught her. The knight also remarked that she should have been more careful, but she didn't fall because she wanted to, but she still thanked them for catching her. Now it is clear that if she puts them on, she will not be able to stand on her feet, so she must forget about these terrible shoes, because the princess cannot allow her to get hurt. A maid entered the room and announced that she had something to say to Her Highness. Tioles asked them to wait a moment. Titania looked at the knight's girl, who only turned away a little embarrassed, as her cheeks were flushed. What did this all mean? Suddenly, the lady began to say that she was in great pain and distress. She tried to act the part for a bit. The knight asked the lady if she had sprained her ankle. The lady remarked that it looked like it. Whether she liked it or not, she would still act honorably. Ziantina asked her to let her know if she needed her help. The very first rule of the knightly code is to help the weak and be courteous to ladies. So she doesn't understand how anyone could fail to take advantage of this. Titania began to say that she was in a lot of pain and that she couldn't even walk. Ziantina first asked her if she was serious. After these words, the lady asked if she thought she was pretending. Titania said that this was nonsense and did not understand at all how she could think such a thing. She feels so bad, and yet she behaves like this. After these words, the knight apologized and asked the lady to offer her her hand. The princess came into the room and announced that she was already back. She was in complete shock, as she had no idea how they had managed to become so close. The knight insisted that wasn't true. The lady had simply injured her leg. The princess remarked that it was time for the changing of the guard. In that case, she'll take the lady home. It seems Ziantina cares for her very much. Titania was not sure about this, and noticed that she remained indifferent, even when she fell. Tioles noted that although she appears cold, she is actually quite different. Ziantina is very kind. She never had any friends. But then the mistress appeared. Titania was shocked that the princess called her a knight's friend. It would be great if that were the case. Ziantina greeted the lord. Lucifer was surprised to see her and his wife. He didn't understand why they were there together, and assumed his wife was injured. Titania said she pretended to sprain her ankle, and Ziantina walked her home. The knight was completely shocked and said that in that case it was a hoax. But the lady simply thanked her for escorting her. Ziantina was very embarrassed, but noted that thank God she was okay. And then she said that in that case she would return. Titania didn't mind at all, and noted that they would see each other again, to which the knight remarked that she need not bother, and not seek a meeting with her. Titania was very curious to see if they had actually become closer after that. She was drawing in her room, and she thought that maybe this Viking needed to add something, but suddenly Lucifer came up to her and said that she had something on her nose. The gentleman apologized for frightening her. After these words, she began asking him how long he had been standing there. He might have seen her rubbing her nose. Honestly, he's been here for about 5 minutes. So he saw everything, and the lady was very ashamed. Titania really wanted him to pretend he didn't see anything. Lucifer told her that she had oil paint on her nose, but he would help her wipe it off. His hands smelled different somehow, and suddenly she wondered why. Titania turned to Lucifer and asked him where he had been. The Lord said he had been in a knightly order. After this, the lady asked what kind of soap he washed with, but the gentleman didn't even know what to answer, so he said he didn't know, because he used what was in the order's shower room. Its smell is different from the usual one. Titania assured him that it was very different, and she knew that something was wrong. The lady told Lucifer that his neck was red and now his ears too. He seemed to have a fever, so she asked if anything hurt. Lucifer turned to his wife and said that if she came closer, it would be extremely difficult for him to restrain himself. Titania didn't understand at first, but when she thought about it, it immediately occurred to her what it meant. In any case, if she doesn't like the smell, she can wash herself again. Well, the lady said there was no need, it wasn't that bad, and she got all covered in paint. But still the gentleman said he would go wash himself. Titania continued to assure him that everything was fine, but he simply refused. Lucifer said it wouldn't take long. She realized he was upset that she had drawn a line between them. Titania knew she had to pull herself together, because she knew she couldn't give her heart to this man. Titania apologized for getting too close. She was just unsure. Lucifer, horrified, began to tell her that he had never dated any other women except her. But that's not what the girl meant. But that's exactly how it looked. She can't tell him what she knows about Peridot from the book. She wondered if she was being too direct in saying that she thought there was something wrong with this soap, so she sent him off to rinse off again. And if he went again, he was to bring her soap. Titania was so embarrassed that she almost got into trouble. But now everything should be fine. She recalled his words about how he had never dated any other women except her, and she blushed. And all because she can't fall in love with him. Lucifer went to wash himself again. Usually, he's great at keeping his emotions in check, but for some reason, he loses control every time around her. Lucifer wanted to pull her towards him, but such behavior was unacceptable. And while they were busy with their own affairs, time flew by, and the day of the engagement arrived. Juliet said that the lady was simply beautiful. It suits Titania very well. The lady was grateful for the compliments, but she has no idea when the ceremony will begin. Well, everything is as usual. Even after the preparations are over, the bride still has to wait a long time for her betrothed. The lady thinks that she could while away the waiting time with friends, but she has no friends. Her closest friend is Lady Ziantina, but she will never come here. Well, it's okay. She's used to being alone. Before she came here, her parents were always busy with tons of debt. In order to survive, she had to work without rest even during her student years. And because she worked and studied at the same time, she never managed to make friends. Eventually, she simply withdrew from everyone. Here she also has to fight for her life. But at least she doesn't need money. She doesn't have to worry about the interest she has to pay next month, which is already a good thing. Now all that remained was to win her place in the sun and live happily ever after. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door, and the maid immediately asked who it was. When she saw those ladies, she immediately allowed them in. They immediately began to say that the lady was so beautiful. Titania was surprised to see Lady Regina and Cynthia. She had no idea why they were there. No matter what happens, friends should support each other. The ladies did not know whether they could come, since they had not received an invitation. But they really wanted to congratulate her personally, and they wondered if they had acted too rudely. These words touched the lady, and she said that, of course, this was not so, and she was very grateful that they had come. Titania felt awkward, and didn't even know how to start a conversation. We need to find a topic quickly, so the lady decided to ask me if they were engaged, or if they had been matched when they were children. Titania immediately began to think this was an extremely tactless question. Regina said she was interested in writing and had no desire to get married. Titania was shocked. The lady added that she even secretly sends her texts to the newspaper. That's great. After that, the lady decided to ask about Lady Cynthia. She said that her beloved died 4 years ago. He fell from a horse, and she does not want to tie herself to anyone else. Titania realized that she had touched a nerve, so she didn't know what to say. The girls remarked that if she became the Duke's wife, they wanted to be bridesmaids at their wedding. And then they asked the lady if she would do them such an honor. Titania was in complete shock. Titania didn't even know what to say, so the ladies began to think she'd already chosen someone else. But that wasn't true at all. In that case, they have a chance, and the lady confirmed it. The ladies were very happy. It makes sense. Once she becomes a duchess, she will need companions to live with. Their role is fundamentally different from the role of maids. They do not do household chores. Companions are chosen from among noble ladies and entrusted to them the care of their bodies and the collection of information about events taking place in high society. That's all they need to worry about. If a power struggle breaks out in the imperial palace, they'll be the first to know. Although Titania knows this status is considered an honor, here she's a little confused by the term companion. The lady remarked that it was very sweet of them, but she wanted them to become real friends. She didn't even know what to do. The ladies began to say that if she appointed them as her companions, they would never betray her. They would always be by her side anywhere and any time. The lady realized she needed to think about this carefully. Titania wanted to ask something if they were to be her companions. She wondered if they could be friends. If not, she'll be forced to refuse. The ladies immediately brightened and smiles appeared on their faces. They said that was certainly true. They continued chatting happily and enjoying themselves. The ceremony was about to begin. The mistress would soon be coming out. The maid informed her of this. Regina pointed out that her heels were so high, and the other lady told her to hold their hands. Titania was very grateful to them, but she felt she didn't deserve such kindness. But the ladies told her it was a given. They were her companions now. Nanya came closer and called out to her mistress. She asked her if she had truly forgotten about her and chosen other companions. She had such a terrifying face. The lady didn't even know how to react. The woman kept saying that this couldn't be happening. Nanya said she tried so hard for her, but the mistress didn't reciprocate. She didn't know an aura could become so dark and gloomy. She decided that this should not happen right before the engagement ceremony, so she said that she had one request for Lady Nanya. The ladies told the lady that they were short of time, so she had to hurry. Titania told Nanya that she had taken the glass she had drunk from. The girl had no idea how she had found out. It was a secret, but it wasn't hard to guess. The lady remarked that it was excellent, and then she asked if she could bring it to her, along with its contents. The girl wasn't quite sure why she needed it. The lady assured her that this was a very important task, and she could only entrust it to her. If she got her hands on this glass, she could catch Lady Peridot red-handed. You might think she said that just to get rid of her, but in fact this is not the case. Nanya shouted that she would definitely do it, and was very, very happy, mission accomplished. And now, when this door opens, she will officially become Lucifer's bride. Titania didn't understand at all what this was, because the princess said that the engagement ceremony would be informal. The gentleman said that two loving hearts should look at each other and affectionately call each other by name. To be honest, she hadn't thought about the engagement ceremony at all until this morning. This feeling. But the trouble is she doesn't understand at all why her heart is beating so hard. By God's grace, two people met here. The priest continued conducting the ceremony, but all the sounds merged into some kind of absurd cacophony. Everything around her suddenly ceased to be important. She saw and heard only Lucifer. She tried to calm down because it was just a contract, and their relationship would end when the main character appeared, so she shouldn't get her hopes up in vain. They must not let go of each other's hands and bake this wine as a sign of the blessing of the sun, God. If the two of them have something to say to each other, they should say it now. It's a sham engagement, but somehow the process is so exciting. Lucifer would like to say something to all the guests present. He's very grateful to fate that she's by his side, and that she'll face many trials in the future, but he vows to help her through them all. And even though he has plenty of shortcomings, he will always and everywhere protect her. When he looks at her with such tenderness, it's as if she's drowning in his warm embrace. She can't stop her heart from fluttering. This engagement was truly emotionally challenging for her. 6 months remained until the main character's arrival, and she's not sure if she'll be able to avoid falling in love with Lucifer before then. The gentleman asked if she was tired, but Titania said that everything was fine. Lucifer could carry her if she had trouble walking. The girl really wanted him to stop embarrassing her. He sat down and didn't listen to her. Titania said that everything was fine, and she could go. But suddenly, the gentleman stopped and called his wife to him. Lucifer asked her to take his hand, as it was dangerous for her to walk here alone. At first, the lady was surprised, but later agreed. This is the princess's palace. There simply isn't a safer place. This is the hand he held her by during the ceremony. If it seems, then it will seem strange to him. Everything is fine, but she can't calm down, and she constantly goes around justifying herself with her feeling of being a saint. That's all she has left. His hand is so hot, and the mistress might still turn back, unless she falls in love with Lucifer like Shay in the original story. Then she can avoid repeating her fate. It would be wonderful if the road were longer. These words surprised the lady, and she asked what it meant. Lucifer said it was a pity it was too short, because he doesn't want to let her go. Now Titania understood what he was talking about. They were almost to the bedroom. It was time to wake up from this beautiful dream. Titania asked him to let her go, because no one will see them anymore, and there's no need to pretend anymore. The girl decided to set boundaries. Lucifer asked her if she really thought it was all just a pretense. It seems to him that only she wants to believe it, but the gentleman won't convince her otherwise. Lucifer's words were once again spot on, yet for some reason he looks so miserable. Titania knew that they shouldn't, under no circumstances should they go that far, but they kissed anyway. But melting from this sweetness, she loses the ability to think clearly. They continued to kiss passionately, and after that, Lucifer told her that he desperately wanted to hug her. So hot, Lucifer's arms and his lips. They're so hot you could burn yourself on them, and that makes her so scared. So she asks him not to do it. Lucifer told her they would talk tomorrow. When Lady entered the room, she decided she had definitely gone crazy. He's still standing outside the door. If he weren't so hot, she might just let it go. But she wasn't sure whether she would be able to do it now, and didn't understand at all what she should do now. A week passed after their engagement, and they were in all the newspapers. They also wrote something about an amusement park, and finally it was mentioned in the news. There had been so many articles about their engagement this week that she thought the publishers had forgotten about everything else. Titania remarked that this was interesting and did not at all understand why people cared about other people's personal lives. And now she decided to find out who sent him to her. The man began to say that he didn't know. This is the 8th mercenary in a row who doesn't know who his employer is. It's mind-boggling. Titania is so worried about all this that she has completely lost her inspiration and has not been able to draw anything for a week. She couldn't understand how he dared wake her. Suddenly, someone knocked on her door and asked what the noise was. Titania said it was nothing and asked Lucifer not to worry about it. But he burst into the room anyway. The gentleman remarked that they would probably have to hire soldiers to guard the house. The lady was surprised that he was acting so radically, because she was fine, but Lucifer couldn't say the same about himself. Now he understood that she couldn't sleep because of them, and then she asked if she was wounded. Titania said the cat had protected her, so she was safe. She had no idea what to do, because she still felt really awkward just standing next to him, so she decided to talk about the park. She heard that the first phase of the work was almost complete. Lucifer noted that no more than 2 weeks remained. It's just great. It took less time than she thought. Everything is going smoothly because he has a lot of money. He didn't even have to look for investors. Lucifer was shocked that she was attracted to his wealth. Titania confirmed this. She didn't even know what could be better than money, but she didn't understand at all why he was looking at her like that. He looked at her with such eyes. A cat came up to them and told them to hire security already. These idiots attack him every day, and it drives him crazy. Titania agreed with him. I told him that Lucifer could go back to his room because there was nothing left to worry about. The Duke said that if something happened, she should call him and he would come rushing. But the lady assured him that nothing would happen and he should go to bed already. Kitty approached her and asked her why she was sighing. Titania remarked that she was simply a little worried. If she continues to react to him like this, she won't be able to leave peacefully. This vile girl was a slave, and it's completely unclear how she managed to become a duchess. The man himself saw her at the auction. It's simply unbelievable their daughter has to kneel before a slave. It's such a nightmare. The engagement could be broken at any moment, but for some reason, Lord Aragon remains silent. He was the one who started this conversation. Their wedding must not take place. It must be broken off at any cost. They should have passed this on to their wives and daughters. Let them publicly disgrace hers. After that ill-fated kiss, she couldn't look Lucifer in the eyes, so she began to avoid him. But his languid gaze and voice hoarse with passion. Titania felt like she was about to go crazy. The mistress was tired of being constantly on guard, so as not to accidentally run into him at breakfast. After all, it won't be possible to run away from him forever. She turned to the butler and said that he had dropped something and helped him pick it up. But she decided to see what it was, and then she decided to ask herself. She immediately apologized for peeping. She realized it was a report of the abnormal symptoms his lordship had experienced on the day of his engagement. but she had no idea what these symptoms were. She only said that his lordship was immune to most poisons and love potions, but that the wine had perhaps weakened his defenses that day. Something strange has happened to the Duke, and unfortunately, he doesn't know what caused it. This is written in the report. It is assumed that he was exposed to an aphrodisiac. If you think about it, Lucifer's body temperature was especially high that day. It turns out he didn't want to hug her of his own free will. That's just wonderful. Otherwise, it would have been too awkward. Titania asked the servant who he thought would do such a thing and what their intentions were. Theo said it was unlikely they had slipped him an aphrodisiac. Most likely it was me with very specific side effects. Of course, the Duke is an unusual person. Well, even he couldn't control himself and kissed her. They conducted a re-examination and found no traces of poisoning, so she need not worry. It turns out she was wrong to avoid him and won't. And now we ourselves feel awkward. It's such a shame. Everything was resolved. Theo thought the lady would notice that he'd dropped the piece of paper on purpose, but strangely enough, she didn't suspect a thing. Lucifer was glad to hear this. The heat inside him was higher than usual, but the wound has healed and diminished. Titania, everything will surely return to normal, because she is now convinced that the poison was to blame. However, this is not true. Even now, when the aphrodisiac effect has worn off, he still wants to kiss her. He wants to caress her tender body. He wants all of her. Lucifer has lost his mind. A beast has taken up residence within him. She tries to keep her distance from him, and he must respect her privacy. Lucifer was so eager to see her that he resorted to trickery. So let's leave it as is. A reply came from the Ministry of Magical Medicine. This poison was produced using the most modern technology, and only a few can create it. And if you think about who had the motive, then the circle of suspects can be narrowed even further. Lady Peridot truly crossed the line a few days after accidentally forgiving the report. The servants promised they would do their best. The Gertsov estate underwent radical changes. The butler ordered everyone to take their places. Titania asked Lucifer if he was all right. The reason Lucifer has drastically restricted outsiders from entering the estate is the threat of attack, but he doesn't particularly like communicating with people, and it is because of her that he hired so many servants. Lucifer noted that he was fine, and his condition had returned to normal. Well, if that's true, that's good. In reality, such a huge mansion and its surrounding grounds must have employed at least 100 workers. There should be guards everywhere, and the duties of the butler, senior maids, and ordinary maids should be performed by different people. It's great that Lucifer understood this, which means that very soon he will return to the ordinary life of a noble gentleman. Titania inquired whether the Rantis Knights would be on permanent guard duty and rotate weekly. They confirmed this. From tomorrow onwards, her safety will be given special attention, and Lady Catherine will accompany her everywhere. This means they'll be here with her all week. The Knights confirmed this. It was perfect. She was just thinking about an engagement gift for Lucifer, but she couldn't concentrate because of all the commotion, and she thinks they might be able to advise her on something. The knight asked about a magical artifact. Titania was very happy, because this was exactly what was needed, and she did not understand at all why she herself did not think of this. Lucifer gave her a magic pen, so the lady inquired where she could purchase it. If a magician makes one, they can be found in the Wizards Guild. There are also wizards in the Ministry of Magic and the Court Department of Magical Research. But the wizards who work there do not accept personal requests. Perhaps they would have made an exception for Lucifer's sake, but time was running short. Titania was shocked that she couldn't buy a ready-made artifact, but the knight said it was possible, with a caveat. "This is simply amazing, madame. I didn't know the magic workshop was right next to her atelier. It was a very prime location, and she now understood why Peridot had been so keen on getting her hands on the building. The man serving asked the knights to leave their swords here. The lady was surprised to learn that swords were prohibited here. Security told her that was true. Any bladed weapons, including swords. If I hand them over at the entrance, the local sorcerers will still figure it out thanks to detection magic, and then the problems won't be taken away. Detection magic. It's a good thing she didn't take Juliet and Kitty with her, because she doesn't want them to know she's a magician artist. She hoped she wouldn't get caught, and she was also very worried. If she was looking for the workshop, that's where they were headed. The man was lost, that she was such a beauty. It seems she was not caught. This place is very dirty. The mistress started asking if there was an owner here. She couldn't believe that this was a magic workshop. It seems that there is no one. Perhaps he is somewhere in the utility room. So the knight will go and look there. The lady was grateful to him, and the knight said that in that case, she would remain next to the lady. But suddenly, she said that she would go upstairs to look around. The lady was not at all against it. Titania believed that she went there because she was not in any danger, apparently thinking that she would stay next to her. Well, this place seems perfectly safe. She noticed the ever-jumping spring and the dancing palm tree. The lady didn't quite understand who might need such a thing, although the dancing palm tree was quite cute. But Titania was still worried, because she had nothing to protect herself with. Suddenly, she noticed a shadow. A strange man appeared behind her. She didn't even have time to think about it. The action itself threw him off. The man remarked that it was too impolite. She didn't even know who he was. Titania apologized and said that she was just scared. That's why she reacted that way. It's all right. He should be the one asking for forgiveness. But the lady assured him that wasn't the case. She was sure that there was definitely no one inside, so it was completely unclear when he managed to appear here.